to have like these schools are going to have to turn people away, right? Like they're probably not going to be encompassing 30,000 people who want to go to that school. Anyone disagree with that?
No.
I do want to get like Corey go.
I mean, I just had, I guess, like one or thing to add on in terms of like, yeah, the study, and just that one particular study that is being cited, where again, I haven't read the whole thing yet, but also even of like the the very minor effect. The greatest effect that they saw was like in developing countries, as in this was a meta-analysis that was like international, so it's like outside the USA, and even they themselves they say like, yeah, the greatest effect was found in developing countries, so not necessarily applicable to the United States. Unless you want to say the United States is a developing country, I'm totally willing.
Wait, so even if that's the case, I mean, among the developed countries, was there a small positive effect?
They couldn't do it. There weren't enough studies to do like to break it out. Because there were only like 11 studies. Just for an idea of how little study this is, it was like 11 or something, like a dozen. So just
so that was the meta-analysis. I mean, they threw out 9,400 they only included 21 studies out of 9,443.
Yeah, so I'm just when you have like 21 studies, it's not going to be significant. So that's why they're like, we ain't got no data. This sucks. That's literally what they say, word for word.
I don't know if they say it sucks word for word. I don't know.
I want to also say something. 1 second, Mooncake.
Just to jump in there, this isn't about the study, but I just worry that mixing the public and private funds is just not a good idea. I also think there needs to be a separation of like church and state. So, for example, if there's vouchers, what if it's for a Catholic school, right? There really should be a separation, and I think when we start to get into that, we might muddy the waters. And we once again don't want it to become like a profit thing, right? Which school can make the most amount of money? And then what also happens to the kids that are left behind at these public schools? What happens to their funding? What kind of education are they going to get? And I think those are the things we do need to consider.
I want to also say that private schools can also relieve the pressure on public schools in some regards, right? So a lot of private schools can also be specialized for kids with learning disabilities, right? And of course, that's going to bring your net average down. I don't know if that study, I read through it yet. I'm trusting y'all to be honest, but I'm saying that I feel like there's a lot of specialized schools for people with learning disability, dyslexia, ADHD, and they have kids that go there. And yeah, obviously they might not perform as well as a normal child at a private school or public school, but now these kids are going to get specialized training because as we all know in America, a big problem with our education system is special education being not funded enough and teachers being overwhelmed. So now you're going to be able to send these kids and get public funding for these kids to have specialization for like these kids that have these learning disabilities. And I don't see how you can't argue that's not a good thing.
But there's an issue there because what teachers, for example, are going to work at these private schools? Think about it. If the private schools are getting more money, the teachers who are maybe at these good public schools are going to switch to these private schools. Then you got to bring in more teachers. I think you're going to run into an issue, especially there. And then you were saying about the students. If you just start going to private schools, it's like you're just switching a system. I don't know how to put this in different words. Like, if we just funded the public schools properly, there'd really be no need for the private schools, except for the kids who maybe want, like, I don't know, like deeper knowledge in math or sciences, something like that, right? They're looking for more, like a further education. If that kind of makes sense. Sorry.
I mean, Tiberius I got this earlier with the Kansas being in bumfuck Egypt. I actually disagree with you on that one. Like, I think if you are in bumfuck Egypt, I think the private school voucher program is really great because you're probably not going to get the same quality like Mooncake was just saying, right? So if you already think you're not going to get the same quality, you might be able to go to a private school a little further away with these vouchers and get you that better education as opposed to like having whatever teachers are left in bumfuck Egypt. So I don't see why this is a problem.
I don't disagree with like that on principle. The problem is that like for basically the economy of scale and making like your effort work, I think it's far more cost effective to make sure that the school that's 5 to 10 minutes away actually does what you need it to do rather than sending your kids 40 minutes away to the next school over. Because if you are in bumfuck Egypt, and that is very real, go to Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, hell, half of Texas, literally has this issue. So I'm like, look, I want to make sure that my gains and my effort is actually worth something. And this is where I really ruffle feathers with Republicans on some regards, because it is, look, private schools are kind of cool in principle because in theory, having it where the profit motive is involved with this shouldn't make better schools. I just don't think the results are that I wouldn't say conclusive. What's the word? They're not that appropriate, I guess is the word. It's not worth that investment personally, because you're still talking about education's horribly expensive. Even in public schools, the average student is now costing $11,000 a year. Who the fuck can afford that? Especially us ruralites, so working on the farm 50 hours a week. Fuck that. I can't afford that shit. Like I need the community to help pay for that. Just straight up, okay? Here's the other part, though. This is where I go the other side. I am perfectly fine with publicly funded religious schools. We can do the separation of church and state conversation. That's cool. Like, I'm fine about it. But I do believe that the education system should reflect the people that are being educated. Like, what are the elders of that society and that community say? Hey, look, do I think Christianity is good? Cool. We're going to hire teachers to say Christianity is actually kind of a cool thing, and then we can fight over the details.
Just a question to that. So, would you say, like, if you could today, like in America, would you make some Catholic schools? I don't know if they all are Catholic schools in America public sometimes, or is it always private?
There's definitely some public ones.
Oh
is
no,
there-
they're all
There's not
I think they're all
private.
charter schools.
Yeah.
No, they're all private. What
They're all
the fight is right now is whether there's that one school that's trying to open up that's going to be public. That there is, like, it was in Kansas or something. It's one of
Yeah.
the states. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they got sued. Like, so
Yeah.
the issue is that I have no problem with what Kansas was doing. The problem that came up as a result of it is that they bitched and moaned whenever somebody tried to open up an Islamic school. They're like, hey, we want a school for like the 30,000 Muslims that are within Kansas, and they were saying, hey, we're going to do an on-site campus and everything, and they bitched a fit, and so Kansas struck it down, their own law that allowed for this, because they couldn't be consistent with the principle.
And I do have a problem with we're doing in Kansas, but like, go ahead, Mooncake.
Oh, sorry. The reason I was just asking is because, like, here, and I know it is different, a lot of Catholic schools that I saw around were also publicly funded. So they were funded by the government, right? They had a very strict system in what was in place to be taught, right? You had to think like prayer in the morning, and then you went through whatever. What I'm saying is that I think would be the best case, especially in America, was if they made every single school public. Like, you can still have those private schools. Let's be honest, they're really for rich kids. But think about it. If every area had the same amount of funding, so they had all the same books, all the same equipment, same funding, and it's not just based off of like I think it's like land tax or something in that area. I think that'd be much better for everyone, because then you'd get that education. Everybody would be learning kind of like similar topics, and then yeah, I just think that'd be better for the students. But I don't know. You go ahead.
I agree. It's probably a certain. I mean, I know when you say equal, you probably meant equitable, but there's probably going to be like different things that need to be controlled for, even whenever you decide on things like that, just based on the background of the schools. Like technically, I went to a county of schools that was, I don't know, I guess you would call it school choice. Like if you could go to any school, and like there was no districting in the county. There wasn't but 3 high schools. But you could go to any one of them that you could like get your child to.
Yeah.
The bus only goes one place, but if if you wanted to go to the school across the county, you were allowed to.
Yeah.
So we actually have open districts, and that's kind of what I was saying. So like I went to one school, right, and I wanted to go and get my grades up before I came back to this school. So I went to an open district school. I was out of it, and I just blew past them because the level of education was so much lower than the other one. So I went from like a solid A minus student to I had like over 4.0 in like 2 6 weeks like grading periods, right? And then I went back after a year to the other school, and I was like, hey, here's the whoopings, and I kicked people out. And so like you're gonna see, this is what you're gonna see if you're gonna sit here and say we're not gonna do public vouchers and that we public school choice is a thing, because there's a lot of open district schools, and so I just don't see how this is any better or any different than using the voucher program.
I wanted to address something a little bit earlier about like what school choice is, right? So this is like literally at the top of the Wikipedia article. The most common type of school choice in the United States, measured both by number of programs and by number of participating students, are scholarship tax credit programs. These allow individuals or corporations to receive tax credits to allow their state taxes in exchange for donations made to nonprofit organizations that grant private school scholarships. A similar subsidy may be provided by a state through a school voucher program. Other school choice options include open enrollment laws, which allows students to attend public schools other than the neighborhood school, which was mentioned before, and then charter schools, magnet schools, virtual schools, homeschooling, educational savings accounts, and individual tax credits or deductions. So it's a lot bigger than that, and I think that when we're talking about the fight around school choice, it's not about people not going to their neighborhood school. That's not the fight. The fight is over charter schools, and then the vouchers, which is like the most common type of school choice, that sends public money to private schools.
Right, but that's it is a voucher if you're giving them a voucher for private schools.
Yeah, it's a voucher. No, I agreed. Yeah, I'm saying that the fight is not over when we're talking about school choice. When people bring up this topic and it's a political debate, it's not about people not using their like I didn't use my neighborhood elementary school. I went to another one. But I did that, right? But that's not the fight. The fight is over sending kids to charter schools. That's where when we bring up school choice, that's the fight.
I mean, I even know, like I said, even though I grew up in a different thing, I think I could fight on the grounds of being able to go to a different public school. I think that there could be foundational issues there, just depending on I think you still have a lot of the same issues of okay, if it's because it's a bad school, there's still going to be some kids that are forced to go there, and it's just how are we doing? What job are we doing to taking care of them? And there's also studies that show the benefits of higher performing students just being in the classroom with lower performing students. Say that if you had to, it's weird putting it on a scale, but if you had a kid that was a 9 out of 10 grades and you put them in a room with kids that are 4 out of 10 grades, that kid may come down to an 8 out of 10, but it would bring everyone else up to a 6 or 7 out of 10. Just from being in his presence, and not just his presence, but you know what I'm saying, study habits, it just those things follow.
So I want to go ahead, Mooncake.
Oh no, sorry. I just I guess what I'm trying to think about the other side of this, I'm really just trying to understand the benefit. I don't really understand this idea that it would even be a better education. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all going to learn the same thing: math, English, social studies, whatever it is, right? I can't remember what you learn in high school.
And gender identity as well.
Yes, well, you'll learn everything, right?
We do not have Common Core.
I agree. We should give them more money for longer school years.
I just think, hey, I think all the public systems should be the same, but maybe that's crazy to some people. I just don't see how private would just inherently be a better education. Let's be honest. I went to university with people who also went to private school. We were all in the same boat, so their parents just basically paid for a private school, and I think you get that socialization in public school. That's really important to the way you interact with people once you leave high school, for example. So yeah.
I think it makes college more difficult. The way we currently do education is because whenever we first enter, I don't I can speak for other countries, but in the United States, whenever you end up going to college, you end up having to spend a year of time and resources, unless you're in one of those a specialized institute, retaking your Common Core classes, because the colleges can't necessarily assume that based on the state and high school you went to that you're up to this standard level. So you're rereading the same books you read in high school all over again, and spending tuition money. I think that
yeah. Finish your sentence, Corey.
I mean, just kind of asshole thing. That's it.
I just want to ask Lactoid a question based off of a previous panel. So let's say I grant you that all the evidence supports that there's some positive effect of school vouchers. Based off of previous panel, I think on your position, but maybe you've changed. So how do you feel about universal school meals then?
Well, so there's I'm not going to deny the evidence that they probably do have a positive effect, but I would be perhaps opposed to them on other grounds.
Such as?
Overall tax burden, overall increasing, but this appears to overall decrease the tax burden because we're spending less per student. So not only are we spending less, but we're also getting a little bit more maybe. And by the way, SDL, please confirm, regardless of what the cause is, the voucher kids did do a little bit better statistically significantly at the end, right?
That was they were looking at just 2 studies. That wasn't actually the meta study. They were just reporting the results. Yeah, but the point I was trying to raise is that when they do the cost comparison, they seem to do a really shit job. So in their comparison of U.S. Costs, they only look at the tuition of private schools, but they look at total per student costs of public schools, which includes stuff like busing and whatnot. Like there's like a million other things.
But wait,
So
I'm curious.
I'll break from lactoid.
Yeah, I'll have to read your. I guess I'll have to read the study that you linked. I'll be honest, I didn't get it. You just linked it, and I'm not blaming you. I mean, obviously, but like, from what I'm seeing so far, like it does seem as though the very specific questions of like, is there overall a minimally like good impact from what we know? Like, yes, the evidence is bad. Yes, we could always use more. And I would like to know more because my opinion might be dependent on this to some extent, right? I mean, if it's true that like voucher kids just fucking suck and like, wow, it turns out they suck, then no, we shouldn't do that, right? But if the results are negligible or even like minorly positive, like if we're getting overall a little bit more and if the costs are overall a little bit less, I almost think it's irresponsible to not do it.
I want to. Gibbs, go real quick. I do want to address that at some point, but then
I want to break from lactoid on this one a little bit. I think so. When it comes to the school lunches, Corey just brought up, I'm of two minds, right, on the school lunches, right. So I do think that I've seen it like as an anecdotal thing. I've seen how much the school lunches help, and as I said, I'm not a libertarian. I'm very economic conservative, but I'm not a libertarian. So this is one of those things where I wouldn't be. I'm okay with my tax dollars going to feed kids at school. Like one meal a day for school. It's been proven they do better in school. Like we're gonna use tax dollars to fix real problems. If you can give them one meal a day, and like I went to a school where one of the schools I went to, they did have it, and then they had 50 cents for seconds. So these kids could go in and get 50 cents, get seconds, and now they've got eaten enough calories for the day that even if they don't get a meal at home, now they're going to be able to not be hungry. And these kids were doing eat well better than a lot of their peers in other schools that didn't have this government funding for the school programs. Now, here's where here's the caveat to this is, the government dictates a lot of the foods that go out, and so you'll see the difference between like I'm going to say her name wrong, is Miss Bush. Her idea of what was good food versus Miss Obama and her idea of what was good food was very different. And there's argument. I don't know if the studies are out yet. I'm sure there are, and I don't have them. But there was arguable like a difference between the quality of how the students did with one set of food or the other. But like I think that's a stupid debate. Let's feed these kids. If we're going to use tax dollars for something, feeding our students is not a thing we shouldn't be using our tax dollars for. That's a stupid argument. If you're against that, fuck you.
Well, okay. So I
let's
think
go to Doobie and then Corey.
So I might have missed this while arguing with people in chat, which you should never do, by the way. But lactoid, I'm curious about this. So, because I think you're a libertarian, I think you're still pretending to be one right now, right? So, now my understanding of most libertarian belief systems is that they tend to favor like strong separations between like church and state, right? Like strict separation. So, how do you like justify the state giving public money to religious institutions so that they then indoctrinate children into their belief systems?
So, from like a personal level, I don't know. I guess like I'm skeptical of religion on a personal level. I don't necessarily see this as a separation of church and state issue, as long as the state isn't like determining which religions are eligible to receive this, or whether or not the schools have to be one religion or the other. If what they're saying is just like, okay, here's the money, parents, you get to make the decision, and we have these like lists of requirements for these private schools that they have to meet, whether it be a Muslim school, a Christian school, or a Jewish school, or anything like that. Like as long as they're meeting what like the requirements are, it's not like the government's like showing or choosing any kind of favoritism towards any one religion. To me, it's kind of similar to, it would almost be similar to like, okay, so, public employees go to a church and give money to like on the platter. Like, oh, well, that's government money because they're paying a public employee. Yeah, but that public employee is like going to their private business, or like what is their private business, which is their worship, and like choosing to give their money to a religious organization. It's not a separation of church and state issue for me.
Wait, hold on. So would you feel, so I'm just going to curious, would you feel the same about like, let's say STL opened up a commie school somewhere, right?
No.
The most hanky school ever that's ever existed.
That's a religion too far. I'm sorry.
Okay, hold on. No, like seriously, like what would be the issue with that school getting public like school of vouchers?
I mean, so first of all, it's already public.
Should really have been able to open up a school, right? We're gonna go down to Jonestown for a field trip.
Well, I mean, so
What's the issue with
hold on. So first of all,
or some other like some cult, yeah, like that's
I hear you. I hear you. Yes, you're describing. First of all, you're describing public schools anyway. So I mean, the communists.
No,
they're
not. Stop.
Don't be
ridiculous.
The second point is, if you had like a communist school, like a school with like overtly communist values, that was like meeting all the requirements placed by like, hey, this is what your reading score, math, et cetera, I don't think it'd be like a constitutional issue for you to give that, for that person to use their voucher on that school. Would I like it? Do I like the idea that people subscribe to communist content? Absolutely not. I think it's horrible.
Based.
What would be the issue with like imposing like a requirement on these school vouchers that they couldn't go to like a religious school or a school with like a heavy ideological bent? Like, what would be the issue with that from your perspective?
I don't have a strong issue with that. Like, I'm not super. I think it's constitutional either way. If you wanted to put like a strong prohibition when it comes to like, okay, here you can't attend these kind of schools. They can be private, but they can't be religious. They can't be like this kind of ideological. Like, I don't know. You'd be an ass of a time trying to figure out what that means. Then yeah, we can explore that. I'm not necessarily opposed to that because I mean, since it's public money, we do get to decide how it's spent.
Yeah, because I think that's my one hang up on the school voucher thing, right? Is I don't feel comfortable with like funding these religious institutions. I think if there were an exception made there or some kind of requirement made there where they couldn't get the funding, I might be on board.
So, Doobie, my question.
Just to be clear, though, I think like something like 87% of private schools in the U.S. right now are religious.
Yeah,
I think it's in the 80s somewhere.
The Catholics.
So most of this money is going to like religious schools.
When we ran the numbers in Maryland, there were, I want to say, 3 of 200 that were secular.
Yeah,
and
so like
an
most of
additional
this money is going to,
20% were just non-sectarian, but vaguely religious, meaning Christian. So.
Yeah, so most of this money is going to like Christian churches, basically.
Yeah, the Catholics are involved in a lot of institutions. They have a lot of schools. They have a lot of hospitals. I mean, there's absolutely like a level of institutional establishment there. If you have a problem with that, Doobie, and you wanted to like present an amendment saying, "Hey, like I only want to give vouchers to the non-religious schools," I would. I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I would just what my concern there would be, honestly, would be access. Right? If the only schools in your area, like the only alternatives are Catholic schools, and like you can't feasibly get to a non-Catholic private school, and the public school that you're in is complete shit. It would feel terrible to say, well, no, you can't go to the good school because it's Catholic, right? I'm not sure I'm on board with that.
It's not. I don't think it sounds terrible at all. That sounds like if that's an issue, maybe that's just an opportunity for someone else to open up a good school. That's not like a religious indoctrination camp.
That's another good point. Yeah, like if the need would drive, like in a market sense, the need would drive the response. So yeah, that's a good point.
Let's go to our friend Corey Van Moon.
Well, first a comment. It's pretty clear Admiral Gibbs is explicitly left-wing now, since he supports feeding children and he moisturizes. It doesn't get any more left-wing than that.
You converted me, I guess.
But yeah, lactoid. Because it seems to be like based off your answer for about universal school meals, where it seems like your overall guiding principle is like cost effectiveness, or like reducing the tax burden. Where you don't really care. Well, so you seem to be justifying, let's say, the school vouchers is like, well, yeah, if you squint hard enough, there's a positive effect, but there might be more support that is more cost effective. But then, like, what is, if you have any sort of like threshold, maybe not numerical value, but like, how much improvement in performance would you need to support universal school lunches?
I can't give you a number off the top of my head.
Like, shouldn't you just be fundamentally opposed to school vouchers, like, period?
No, again, not necessarily, and I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to school lunches. Like if you saw like a dramatic, like just a complete like upend of the response based on what you put in, right? Like if you put in 5 cents extra per year and you get like every kid's 100% smarter. I mean, fuck, I guess we have to do this, right? Like there's some balance between the two. Now, I'm generally going to be antagonistic towards tax increases because we know where that leads to, but I'm not going to be opposed to it in every instance.
Can I ask him a quick question? Okay, I'll
I'm
just ask
on
it.
the panel. Ask it.
I just didn't. I know there's someone else in line, so I didn't want to be rude. But like, here's the question: would you, because I know your morals and your principles, right? Would you take school choice if you saw that it had like like a 5% less effectiveness versus public schools?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I think I'd be generally opposed. If it was like overall, if you could show me overall it was less cost effective, I'd be opposed to it.
Okay. I can flow with that. I actually expected you to go the other way with that, but that was interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, and so I guess the concern, I guess the other end of the concern, like beside leaving cost effectiveness aside, which is, again, if this is true, which it appears to be at least minorly indicated, it's strange that like the opposition towards like, I guess, privatization is so strong that it even overcomes potential utilitarianism. My question is like, is there any concern here about sort of, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. If we did have, like, let's say there was no effects whatsoever, wouldn't it be a better thing if all education wasn't like controlled by a single apparatus?
That's kind of where I was. It was kind of my thing. That was my first question, was based on like where's the data leading the conversation, because people on every other conversation, like typically people on the left, which I consider myself to be part of, or on every other situation, are like, this is just what the data says. This is, like, so I'm like, if the data does show to be, like I said, positive or even neutral, technically the argument should be in favor of like letting people do what they want.
So hold on, I do want to address that, but first Mooncake, then I'll address that.
Actually, I'm going to get to that point too. Just a couple of things and then a question. With that, I kind of don't like this idea that having like multiple people teaching different things would be a good idea. The reason I think it should go through the government is because, for one, they believe in science. I do believe all their coursework, and to this day, will be appropriate. It'll be what everybody should be learning, like the basic things. Leaving that up to people with potential special interests is not exactly a great idea. Like I think Dewey said before, you could have an issue with like if someone's being taught something religious, something what's it called, like cultish, that we have to be careful with. And then I just had a question actually. Do we not see these school vouchers as these private schools just basically making money? Like they're just a business basically. Are we not considering it that?
People advocate for it. Some people are okay with that because they're saying that like a business is susceptible to the market.
But,
like they wouldn't deny that.
Well,
It's preferable.
When did we get to the point of school becoming a business? Right? I thought everyone would be entitled to education, or is that like?
Well,
Some libertarians will say no.
Your Canadianness is showing. Your Canadianness is showing.
Lactoid. No, I'm asking that directly. Is everyone entitled to an education?
In a perfect, so in a perfect world, I mean,
the libertarian world, not perfect world, libertarian world.
Okay. I think there's probably some minimal level of education. Would it be what it currently is now? No. I think
Lactoid wants that middle school educated public.
Here's what we're gonna do. I think a lot of high schoolers would be better served going directly into the workforce than they would be going to high school. I think it's absolutely true.
Wait.
I think child labor is a good thing as long as the labor is actually like age appropriate and safe for the minor that's engaging.
Wait.
I absolutely hold on. I absolutely agree with. I absolutely assert this. However, unlike some of my other libertarian compatriots, I like to stay within the confines of the conversation, not necessarily talk about the dissolvement of the state whenever I get the opportunity to. So we're talking about specifically the question of school vouchers versus non-school vouchers. When in this case, given the option in front of me, like, incremental change, if we can push for a little bit of school vouchers, probably a good thing overall. Are there other alternatives that I would prefer? Yeah, but even with school vouchers, this is not a question about whether or not students have a right to an education. School vouchers support that right because the government is paying for parents to send their kid to school.
That doesn't make
Let me split a hair with him real quick, please.
Let Mooncake respond. Mooncake.
Sorry. It's maybe just not competing. It doesn't make any sense, only because why would the government then spend more money for these private schools when we could probably just lower the cost by keeping it in the public schools, therefore not making this a business? I actually am like,
because it doesn't lower the cost.
So I want to address something that's kind of tied with what Mooncake just said, because y'all keep bringing this up. Y'all keep talking about these cultish schools, right? So the cultish schools, as far as I know, aren't generally the private schools. I could be wrong. Y'all might be thinking the Islamic schools or the Catholic schools or the cult. The cultish schools are the home schools, where you have the homeschool groups and you get these people together and they sit here and they school their kids together in their homeschool setting, and they have a standardized little teaching thing they have to teach, and then they can teach whatever they want after they to teach the stuff to the test. And these kids are going to go in there thinking, the Earth is 10,000 years old, and like all sorts of wild stuff.
Isn't
And
that the
that's
same thing you learn at a Catholic school or an evangelical school?
Catholics would not teach that, but some evangelicals would.
It depends on the evangelical school. But here's my point. I'm making. So if we're going to really go after a culprit, I don't know if these school vouchers are going to go towards these homeschool charter things. But in my opinion, you know what, Corey? I guess I'm going to go full leftist. If we're going to require kids to go get an education, we shouldn't be allowing the homeschools, and those are ones we shouldn't be giving.
No, homeschool kids do better.
Have the highest.
Do they
Taking
not
the
really? Because listen,
Taking
they
the
might be doing better. It might do
That's
better
not
for the
true.
test,
But it
they
depends on
do
what you
worse
control
when
for.
They do worse. There are studies to support this, and I can look them up if we need to. If y'all really want to argue, they do better on some of the tests, but they do worse with social acclamation.
Yeah,
And that's a major thing,
I'm backing
and
that.
that has been proven like a lot of times. So, and just don't. I mean, like, no.
The rest of the right wing
other
committee.
really hard thing here again is that homeschoolers tend.
It hurts me to say this. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
a lot of
the right wing
homeschoolers-
committee is going to veto you on this one. Like, even among us right wingers, this is horrible. Like, homeschooling is awful for people.
Whoa, hold on. Here, before this bullshit. Okay, so it's there's a pretty well established consensus amongst
correct opinions. That's
there's a consensus here that like homeschool kids typically score significantly higher than other students.
You are like
now
you are in the Coke machine.
That they fail.
Like, I don't know where you're getting this data, but there's no fucking way.
You can Google it. Just Google it, and everything shows that homeschool kids are
have you
kicking ass.
met any homeschool people? They're all like social. Like,
oh my god! So you think because they're a little bit eccentric and they're smarter than you that all of a sudden this is a problem?
It's not even that they're eccentric. It's that like they literally don't know how to operate within like normal public. Like, it literally takes them like 10 years to adjust to that shit. And I've seen the data for this. It's not just me pulling this out of my ass being like, I know a guy. It's literally like they maybe do well in schools because they're like fucking automatons in some regards, because it's literally what they're doing. But like socially, they're completely off the box, dude.
No, they haven't conformed. Hold on, here's the actual reason. They haven't conformed to like what your expectation of their social conversating style should be.
I'm a social conservative. Of course, I see that as a problem.
Yeah. Okay, well,
I completely agree. Autistic, and we should uplift that, right?
Yeah. So hold on. This is a great point. Yeah, this is first of all, this is ableist. You guys are shitting on autistic people right now. But second of all, like if the studies consistently show like over and over and over again, the numbers show that like homeschool kids do better like in all measurements. Like, why is this the group that you're picking a fight with?
No, wait.
Can I interject, please? Like,
Corey better not. So we ain't even brought up a study. You better not say we looking at the data wrong.
We hadn't I'm just saying, like, if all of the outcomes are better for universal school meals, like, why shouldn't you support that? Could you make that same claim?
I've explained. Wait, Corey, I've explained. If school meals were cost like negative, like, or had no effect whatsoever on like taxpayer funds, I'd be ridiculous to not support it. The problem is you got to pay for it.
Yeah, but they're talking about, pros and cons, as in like, okay, even if all the metrics are true, people are bringing up the point, well, if they lack in social skills in other departments, it's a trade-off that is too much. You're doing the same analysis of like, well, the tax burden is too high.
But I don't think lack value. I
don't
think that's something they're behind his value.
Wait.
It's like, it's a little awkward.
Lactoid, could we get away with this if we literally say that school meals are fucking school equipment, or like fucking like if that's what we have to label it as? Like, literally, it's a tool. You're purchasing a tool to improve the educational improvement.
Yeah, you guys are just like totally like I'm surprised I'm having to explain this, like repeat myself over and over again on this, right? So generally, things are a cost-benefit analysis. There are benefits and then there are costs. Sometimes if I feel the costs are too high, even if there's a benefit, maybe the cost-benefit analysis doesn't come out in favor of doing the thing if the costs are higher. Now, homeschooling saves a whole bunch of costs, and there's a benefit.
Let him finish. Go ahead. Finish your point, and then I'm going to respond to that point.
Thank you. Yes. So homeschooling, right, appears to have a very, very strong cost-benefit analysis, which is we don't pay shit for their education, and they do significantly better than other students. When it comes to voucher kids, like, maybe it's a tiny little fucking bit better, and maybe it's a little tiny bit fucking cheaper, but overall the cost benefit analysis is thus that, like, yeah, there's not a strong argument against it at that point. When it comes to school meals, like, you could probably show a strong benefit. Now show me the costs, and then I have to make a calculation as to, do I believe the costs justify the benefit? That's all it is.
Sure. Okay. So, I'm gonna go Mooncake, and then I guess Corey next. And Bam and Gibbs and Ty. All right. I guess that goes to where I was gonna land. Bam asked about, like, well, in any other case, leftists say, like, just follow the studies, right? And that's where my opinion will land. Well, yeah. Then I'm doing the same thing that Lactoid just said. Like, there is a huge cost when we're using these voucher programs. It's like the loss of public funds. It's diverting them from public schools. It is
They can still choose another public school.
Yeah, if they do, like, if it's going to public, and are they actual public schools, or are they charter schools, which is another part of the fight. But beyond that, there's also this flee from public to private, and what that does is it degrades the system. When we aren't all in this, and Mooncake was getting to this previously, but, like, you guys kind of, like, glazed over this, but when we aren't all in the public system, then we don't all fight for the public system. When we give an out to the wealthy or those who have these voucher systems, then they can help dismantle the public school system. The one that's chronically underfunded and chronically unevenly funded, yeah, that's a problem. Public schools do fine, right? When you're talking about, or not even just fine, they're excellent. When you're talking about public schools that are in high income zip codes, right? Those public schools are great. They produce fantastic results. The ones where in low income neighborhoods, since we fund these things through local property tax, right? Yeah, like that. Those perform way. There's a negative impact there, right? So rather than, like, trying to fix this, and this is, like, eminently fixable. It's eminently fixable. We allow an escape hatch. The white flight that Sockton Left was saying at the very start, right? We allow an escape hatch for people, and then those same people will say, "Well, I'm not getting anything out of this," right? And then they're all of a sudden they're libertarian brain. I'm not getting anything out of this, so let's dismantle this system. Let's attack this. When we had the closest, and I'll say this one last thing, don't move on. But when the black and white achievement gap, right, in terms of students, when that was shrunk the most it ever did in the United States, that was during school busing. That was when we were physically moving white kids into black neighborhood schools and vice versa. And what happened was, overnight, the people who could opt out, the people who had power, who could opt out of those systems, saw those public schools that their kids are now going to, and they're like, well, these schools need resources. And so I'm going to call my congressman, I'm going to call my representatives, I'm going to get those resources. And they just magically appeared, when before there was no money. We couldn't find them. We couldn't find them at all. So when we give these that escape hatch, right, that's what happens. Is that those resources that could have been allocated don't. So I'll leave it there. But then we're going to go to Mooncake.
Prime, can I ask you a question about what you just said?
Sure.
So two questions. The first question I have is, let's say what did come out of meta-analysis that showed that voucher programs, specifically for private schools, had a significantly, like, positive cost-benefit analysis, where those students costed less and they did better, right? Let's just say, like, that study came out. Would you then be in favor of school vouchers?
To be very clear, one, I don't care about the cost. I think that it's weird that we penny pinch when it comes to schools. So like I like this is not a place that I would do that in like at all. So it really doesn't matter to me.
Well, states have to.
There's some cost like we got to care about, right?
I'm sure. Yes.
$30 trillion per student. I mean, come on.
Me too. I was
right. So cost benefit.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. But I'm saying that would have to be within the extreme, and that's not where the place we're at. So I throw a lot more money at public schools. But yeah, if it proved that somehow just like physically moving these kids like had some sort of outsized benefit, then sure, I absolutely I'd have to reevaluate my position. Was that the only question?
The only other thing I wanted to say is that like it's a commonly misunderstood thing when people say, okay, well, you got schools that are funded through like local property taxes, and that leads to like a dramatic disproportionate level of school funding. The feds make up quite a significant amount of that. In fact, in the U.S., according to the Federal Reserve of St. Louis, Black students in the United States receive, it's a very, very small amount. Very small amount. They receive slightly more education funding per student than white students, and very slightly less instructional spending compared to white students. Some of that gap is made up through like other school resources.
So let me speak to this real briefly. Across the U.S. states in the past 20 years, funding has been enormously reformed. It used to be regressive, and now it's progressive in most states. So just by income, 47 of 50 states have progressive funding nowadays, but only about 1 in 2 states have racially progressive funding, which is odd because Black people disproportionately tend to be poor. So the point, I guess, just more broadly, is Black schools do tend to be worse than you'd expect them to be for people of their income. Like something that I posted in chat as well is that poor students cost more to get the same level of quality education. It can be as much as 2 times more. So the fact that a disproportionately poor group is getting the same funding as a much less poor group is not actually an argument for like actual equality. Is all I'm trying to say.
Well,
like it's good, but it could be better.
You're right. It's not an actual argument, I guess, supposedly for equity, if that's something you care about, right? But it is an argument saying, well
this is all equality of opportunity, right?
Well, no. The funding though,
quality.
right? The funding though, like as you just said, what you said, 47% or 47 out of 50 states are now progressively funded.
By income, yes, but by race,
income,
it's only 1 in 2.
Well, hold on, but if it's by income and Black people are disproportionately poor, then it would also be disproportionately by race.
No, that's the problem, right? Is that though Black people are disproportionately poor, they aren't getting the same level of progressiveness in funding as like the whole country is. That poor people overall get progressive funding, but it doesn't quite work for Black people. It's white poor people, particularly, that are getting progressive funding.
So hold on. So Black students are getting more than white students on average in the country. They're just not getting
by like
enough.
$50.
Yeah. Well, it's by a few $100s, but like you're saying it's not by enough, is what you're saying.
It's yes. Well, it's less than you'd expect given the disproportionality in
but it is more,
and given overall progressive spending.
And so Lactoid, since had been directed at me. Like SDL pretty much beat me to it, but he said it in a much more eloquent way than I would have. But that our schools, our public schools, are asked to do a lot more, especially in those poor neighborhoods, are doing a lot. They are making up for our societal inequities. What we do is we just pile those things up on public schools, right? When we have kids who don't get meals at home, right? Because they're too poor and they show up. They need meals there, right? So that eats into the budget. It just like takes more for that kid. When the kid doesn't get like tutors like after school, right? Like we'd have to like make that up within the school for more after school mentorship. Like there's a whole list of costs that make poor kids more expensive than kids of means. So I just put that out there that like even if it's just a little bit more or whatever, right? That doesn't actually make up for it. It has to be a lot more for that need.
That's an argument, but it's a very different argument, and a lot of people have this perception that there's like less funding, but that's not true.
So the perception comes from the past and local funding. The only reason it's equal either is because of intensive federal subsidization that's only emerged in the past 2 decades or so of poor districts. So I just want to be clear, like this is a political win for our side. That only
and people have consistently been making this argument within the past 20 years for their side, despite the fact they already won. Right, 47 states are progressive. Like, why be celebrating instead of like?
No. Hold on. What I said was that it's underfunded, right? And so to actually complete the task, it's underfunded. Schools don't have the funding necessary to complete the task of educating these kids, right, and being their mothers, and then being their chefs, and keeping them safe from all our societal failures. Actually, no, they are underfunded. Absolutely. I don't walk
you
with
attributed
that,
right. You attributed that to the how property taxes fund schools disproportionately. That's not true because according to SDL's own source, 47 states are progressively funding education. So really the argument's now this.
And there's Robin Hood laws. And there's Robin Hood laws.
Let me briefly quote one last thing. Let me briefly quote from the article that Lactoid posted, though. Oh God, I just had it pulled up. They found that the reason that it's progressive nowadays is entirely due to that federal funding. Property tax funding is enormously regressive. So, like, just a quote from it. While states contributed 46% of funding for white school districts, it's 44% federal for black districts. Like the overwhelming, So I'm just trying to say, like, this is something that's actually new, is all. So I get that people's arguments are maybe dated, but that the reason they're dated is because we won.
Right. Well, 2 decades dated is pretty significant.
I actually, it still doesn't work out. I have to deal with this later because it'll be one jump in because that doesn't actually account for the full funding of schools at all. But, all right, the mooncake. No, I'll deal with you. Don't worry. I'll come back to you, Lactoid.
I just had a few questions. Just before I made my comment, I just had a few questions. So, okay, Lactoid, you are a libertarian?
Unfortunately.
Sure. Oh, no, I'm not big on I'm not big on political labels. SDL's called me a right-wing neoliberal. I call myself a libertarian just because it's closest to what I believe.
You mean a neocon? Is he a neocon?
And then Tiberius calling me a neocon.
No, I'm just saying, like, a right-wing neoliberal is called a neocon. Like, why do we need?
No, not anymore.
Wait, just let him make a point.
Sorry. The reason I asked is because, like, I guess, do you like America? Like, do you love America? Are you patriotic?
He's Canadian, by the way.
Yeah. He's a Canadian.
So no, I'm not a Canadian. These motherfuckers it's a weird joke that they keep rolling with. Okay, I'm not Canadian. I'm an American. So do I like America? I generally don't like the concept of nation states like as a thing. I don't think they're intrinsically justified in terms of like countries by governance. I think America is one of the best. I think we guarantee a lot of like constitutional rights for our citizens, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, et cetera, that I think are like really important. So, and the U.S. does that pretty well.
I guess the reason I asked is just like to understand you a bit better before I just made my comment. But I guess just and I'm going to bring this back to just the school lunches because that's what I heard earlier. What I don't really understand is that if you give these kids school lunches, right? Better for society, right? Less dependence on these parents. We've seen it with a lot of European countries, us included. If you do that, that would also teach kids healthy food options, healthy food choices. That means you could even lower heart disease, right? That Americans, unfortunately, tend to die from a lot each year. I think that's the highest reason Americans die. Also, children can't even learn on an empty stomach. I mean, I think someone may have sent you like the data on that. I can. So I guess I was just trying to understand if you actually liked America, because I feel like if you did, you would want this. So that's why I was kind of curious.
So this is a little. Here's the ultimate reductio, right? And we all agree with this principle of like cost benefit analysis. Even you, like all of us agree with this. Like I would assure you, a child like who is like two rich families would probably do better in school. Does that mean the U.S. government has an obligation to make all families rich?
No. But we're talking about food, like for children. Like I'm not saying like you're an adult, you go work your job and like whatever. I'm talking about like kids.
Well, no, I know kids in rich households do better in most aspects of life. No. Does the U.S. government have an obligation to make all families rich?
Yeah, but think about it. With the taxes that people already have, why would subsidizing meals, one meal a day, which a lot of other countries who are successful do, why would that be a problem?
It's a violation of his principles.
It's just the money, right? Because ultimately, here's the principle, right? Tax money is stolen money, right? So whenever you're going to use this money, you have to justify it. You have to justify it, both of us agree it'd be ridiculous to steal money to buy somebody a mansion.
He's a libertarian.
We disagree as to food.
Sorry, hold on. I want to let Mooncake, because we all get a chance, and we all got to yell at Lactoid at some point in time. It's a rite of passage. But go ahead, Mooncake.
How is taxes stolen money? I'm actually excited to hear this.
Because okay. So if I came to you, let's say I came to you with a gun and I said, if you don't give me 20% of your income, I'm going to put you in a cage. Would you agree this is stolen money?
Yes.
Yeah, the government does that.
Okay, for one, they don't, and I think that it's really scary that people think the government just does this. For one, you file taxes and you pay taxes because you are a citizen of said nation. When you are a part of a nation with other people, you have to support the individuals around you. You are a part of a society. So they use that tax study to benefit society.
Well, that doesn't make it not theft, right? Like if I stole your money, like if I did the same thing with a gun and took 20% of your money and then I spent it like handing it out to neighborhood kids, that would still be stealing from you, right?
But the government doesn't point a gun at you and say, "Hey, give me your money."
The IRS has a SWAT team. They definitely have guns behind them.
Yeah, why would they? Because they run into, unfortunately, dangerous situations sometimes. So yeah, that would make sense.
Well, because let's say there was an enterprising young individual who didn't want to pay his taxes. Eventually, they will come get you with guns.
Okay, so if I can ask you, so even for giant corporations, you just believe they should never pay taxes?
No, so there's a difference between like saying taxes are theft and like on a base level unjustified, like morally speaking. Let me explain, right? So there's a difference between saying like taxes are like a wrong in of itself, and there's another question of like, okay, we agree taxes are stealing and wrong, but like, do we have to do wrong sometimes to avoid maybe some kind of greater wrong that like we're more afraid of? I'm sympathetic to that argument.
That's my argument. Yeah, that's my argument.
Yeah, I think there's a sympathetic argument there. And then the cost benefit analysis is just how big is one wrong compared to the other.
I'm going to ask my question again. Do you support the taxation of large companies?
The only two taxes I support are a land value tax and an inheritance tax. Everything else should go away.
Oh, wow. You're out of the Libertarian Party now. You're done.
Oh my gosh. I guess I just can't wrap my head around this because taxes are used to pay for also like social programs. They're used to help.
Not pro-social programs.
Yeah,
any other libertarian.
I'm generally skeptical of social programs.
Okay. Here's my other question. Okay, so if it was just everyone for themselves, right? No taxes, no nothing. How would we build the roads? Like, how would that get
the
done?
roads?
Private individuals.
So now we're gonna play private corporations, right? What if they start charging us, I don't know, $10,000
tolls?
Somebody else would make another company.
We go to a different company.
The market would solve it.
Well, I guess.
But what if monopolies created?
I do think this is somewhat off the topic, but I think the argument from the left.
Then there's a market void.
That this is justified theft because it makes society better off, or two, that the income that you derive isn't like created from the void by your work or whatever. That you live in a society which enables your high income. The only reason you're able to earn all the money you have is because of the partial social democracy that we've built up with the most educated population on Earth in history ever. And so we're taking those taxes to continue doing that, so you can continue to have your high income. It's like the socially required bit to create your income.
I do want to move on from this, but like a mooncake, like if you have like one other thing you want to say.
Sorry, just one other thing. I don't know. I get so confused by Americans sometimes. Is that like even when it comes to healthcare, the idea that taxes are theft, but if my neighbor got cancer, I'm just saying here in Canada, if my neighbor got cancer, he could go get cancer treatment, and guess what? Pay $0. He could be cured and pay and not have to walk away and be like, oh no, I might as well like kill myself because of my debt. So that's where this confusion, I can't grasp it.
Let me ask you. So you don't think taxes are theft? Let's say there was let's say there was a 100% tax rate. Everything you made was taken by the government and put into social programs. Do you think it'd be theft then?
Okay, yeah, but they don't do that.
Okay, what's the percent that makes it theft compared to not theft?
If they take you 100% of your paycheck, I mean that's just basic.
What about
what about 99? What about 99%? Let's move down the chain.
Once again, yes, but they don't do that. That's why there's calculations.
The UK does 70%.
But
the UK does not.
Okay, engage with the question, right? Like, because this is
yeah.
Like,
what is the percent?
This if you're on this circuit, right?
Yeah.
So
What?
Yeah. 70%, 50%.
50% to me at least is still too much. Well, actually, no. Wait. Before I say that,
based.
No, I need to be careful. It depends on how much you make, because I do believe in a wealth tax. So it really does depend on how much you are earning per year. You should be taxed at a higher rate. If you're making millions and millions of dollars, yeah, you should be taxed at a way higher rate.
So middle class family, right? That's making $80,000 US dollars, real dollars a year. How much? Like
I believe that's like 25%. Like in the States, I believe if you're making like 80,000, I believe they take like 24%. You guys can double check that.
Yeah,
but 24%.
At what point would it be theft, and what point is it fair?
I think the way this tax code is written, because the issue I have is that there's a specific tax code for it.
We're not talking about the tax code. Hold on, come on. He's talking about a hypothetical, right?
Yeah,
he's like he's
okay, 50%. I think would still be theft, but I don't think I can properly engage with the question. That's the issue I'm having.
Why not? Why not?
I don't know because if we're like, are you saying 50% of the 80,000?
The principle is
80,000.
unpractical.
Yeah, 80,000.
Yeah, I would think that's theft basically.
Great.
Yeah, 50%.
Okay, 45. What about 45%?
The number. Just say it's the percentage that you think
It
is not
doesn't.
theft.
Just say
Give me
it's
the
justified.
line.
Just say it's justified.
Let-
It's base theft. That's it. Just say that.
No, I won't agree to that. It's theft. I don't think it's
Get
theft.
fucked, SDL.
It doesn't matter whether it's theft or not because it makes society better.
No,
off. If
because
you
she
care about
knows
the
theft is wrong,
consequences-
unlike you. You guys like theft, but she doesn't
I,
like that.
I agree. No, I'd agree. Like, anytime a poor, starving person steals like flour to bake bread, that's wrong. We should kill that person. I
The
agree.
last time somebody baked bread.
Babylonia time. Cut off their
Like,
hands.
this week.
In a country with this much food stamps, yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh my
All right.
God.
So we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on.
Worries to me.
Mooncake, this is your first foray into libertarianism.
Yeah, I feel like you don't even know what the definition is.
Welcome to the party.
You got to work on this one.
Honestly,
I want to take on that.
Hold on, sorry. Yeah, Mooncake, you got to work on this one. And Lactoid is a person. Like, you're actually lucky to meet Lactoid. Lactoid is actually an easy landing into this. So shout out to my friend. Go ahead.
That's true. He hasn't talked about the market in children yet.
Yeah, Gibbs, don't worry. I see your hand. Yeah.
I still want to raise hell with that.
And also, according to some people, Lactoid isn't even a true libertarian. You're not libertarian enough. Sort of a fake libertarian.
This is every political ideology. You're not actually us. Fuck you. It's like, okay, yeah.
You're not actually
No, I know.
American. Go ahead, Corey.
I'm obviously giving you a hard time.
No, I know.
But yeah, so I think I think we spoke about this even last week. I think your strict economic and systemizer brain is coming into play. So like going back to universal school meals, okay, and like I understand.
That's the conversation.
Yeah, because like I had my hand out for a while, but like you seem to own you have that economic brain where it's like only the economic cost. I agree with you. Every decision is like a cost benefit analysis, but I think you really seem to overvalue just like whatever economic cost. Or you don't see any other costs outside of economic. Where
There's a premium.
So I think you that's something that you miss when it comes to like the homeschooling aspect. So. People on the panel, even if they grant you that, let's say there's academic benefits, okay, there's some sort of grade boost for homeschooling, but I don't think you address the point of like if that comes at a cost of some sort of social development. Do you see that as a cost at all? I'm not saying that's true or not because the empirics are missed, but do you see that as an actual cost of like, hey, this child now lacks social development, whatever that means?
Right. So the empirics are missed as you just described it, right? So the real question would be, let's say that we could measure their lack of social ability in the face of less cost and better grades. Then could that be a consideration?
Wait.
Yeah, potentially.
I can maybe use something more tangible. Let's say they're just like over the long term, like a 10% increase in depression. How about that?
A 10% increase from what percent?
Well, baseline. I mean,
Can I take you back on this, Corey?
I mean, it depends what the baseline is. I don't know what the baseline is.
It's like 1 in 8 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so like if you have some like marginal like increase in depression compared to like the benefits, I would look at the rate increase in depression, I suppose, as like a net detraction, but I don't think that's clearly or anywhere near as bad enough to start shitting on homeschoolers.
Okay, wait. If I said,
no, sorry. Guys, let's go on the line. Corey's been waiting. Corey.
I mean, no, I think like to me. I think you just overlook that cost, and I think the fact that you don't see, I don't think you perceive social development as a thing. Although I'll even back you up, where at least from the data that I've seen, I've done a deep dive, but and when it comes to social development and homeschooling, the evidence appears to be mixed. But I think that is a cost, and I think you only tend to think, understandably, given your leanings, only in economic terms.
No, hold on. So the social development issue is missed, but based on your review as a credible academic, you would also agree that what's not missed is the academic performance increase among homeschoolers, which is significant.
Correlational, not causal.
Based off of what I've seen, that seems a fair assessment.
The income differentials aren't that much.
Let's go to Bam.
I think they are pretty significant.
Gibbs and Ty.
Yeah. So I guess going back to that topic we were originally on, like I guess I would ask you, Prom, and about the one thing that you typically hate, even though like no one's ever been able to find like legitimate arguments against it. Like you say that the issue would be like we're leaving the lower income kids in worse situations, and we're having like a lot of flight. Like technically, your original question was related to removing income gaps and means testing. What if we kept that in place? What if it was more significant? What if it was like the only kids that were allowed to have choice between schools were kids making, I don't know, under 40, like families making over under $40,000 a year or something. So it's just like the low income.
So again, this is kind of why I wanted to like draw that distinction as to like what we're talking about, or at least what's worth talking about. If you're saying school choice is moving from one like straight up public school to another straight up public school,
No, I'm saying even if it's
then
not, even if it's a
well,
charter,
no,
even
that's
if it's
what
public,
that's what I'm
and
saying.
only
Like
like the poor kids.
if you're saying if it's moving to from public school to public school, then like that's like a non-issue for me, and I don't care. When we're talking about voucher programs that send them to public or private institutions or charter schools, which are basically private, right? But use public funds, then that's a problem for me. And it would be a problem for me even if they were like of low means.
Okay, well, I don't, I don't, I still don't understand the significant difference. What differentiates those two things for you? Because, like I said, I can have a problem with it even within public schools, like from public school to public school, because I think that like all of the same things you want to talk about like would exist. So I'm wondering what the distinction is for you.
Because those are public funds going into private hands. They often offer worse educational outcomes. Like when we're talking about charter schools, for instance, they offer worse educational outcomes. They're less regulated, and they can decide, oh, we don't want like disabled kids. So like that's an issue, or kids who are English as a second language, right? So like immigrant kids, like they are overall worse experience, and they uh, get the public to opt out of public schools in general, rather than like fix the system, which again is extremely fixable. They give them political space to say, "Well, I'm not part of this anymore," and so we can degrade these institutions.
But wouldn't that still okay? I'm maybe not the first three issues, but the last issue about fixing the system. If is it fixing like when we have the exact same issues if everyone just went to the best public school in the county, district, region, whatever? Like, would it just like, oh, that's just a crappy school. If you happen to go there, like, it's going to be shut down soon because that's just a crappy school. Like, are we fixing that school?
If everyone went to the best public schools, so
Like,
if we want, we created one super school for a county, and
no,
then
no, and not necessarily a super school. Like, obviously, like I said, 30,000 kids couldn't go to one school. Like, at some point they would have to reject some. But typically, like, are you like the schools that the kids are leaving? Were like arguably, even if you can go into even if it's between public schools, that's not improving the public school that they're leaving. Or are you just okay with that school shutting down if it's just not good?
um, I guess I'm okay with schools shutting down if like there's organizations that like it can't be saved, right? That's the thing that happens, just like an organizational thing. And that's you have to shut down and start over again. So I guess like I'm not like my middle school shut down. It was pretty shit school. Like so like like whatever.
Do you think that so in that case, do you feel like the state would have a responsibility to figure out the like transportation accommodations for all the kids? Because I grew up in kind of a rural area, kind of what Tobias was talking about. Like there can be a pretty significant distance to the next school over, like versus being in like a inner city downtown area where there can be like three schools within 10-minute walks.
If the state has to shut down a school and becomes like like the state shouldn't be shutting down schools, either shouldn't shut down a school or provide a different school if like it's not feasible for kids to actually go. Like if it's like 3 hours away, that's like unfeasible for kids to travel to. So like either provide a new school within that area, or like fix a school that's remaining there.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't exist anywhere out. Like 3 hours, that's probably only in like Alaska. But I'm like I said, it doesn't.
Or
But it
help
doesn't seem like the
people
same
moving.
issue.
Yeah, I mean, like I'd also like if it's like an hour away. I don't know what these distances are, but like if it's some unreasonable distance, right? Then if it's an hour away, then yeah, the federal government
The
should
buses are
help.
just gonna have to create new routes.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I just knew it just feels like we're still not fixing that school if you're allowing kids to leave them. Like
No, so I said fixing. So maybe that's my confusion on my part. I said fixing the institution of public schools, not like each individual school, right? Like there are some schools that literally are rotting, like they are falling to pieces. And so if you tore down that school, like I wouldn't complain about that, but you'd have to provide something else, right? Either transportation somewhere for yourself that's reasonable, or build another building.
Okay, I got you. That was probably my distinction.
My middle school is 100 years old.
So,
good.
thank you. So, all right. I'm gonna Lactoid. I don't ever get to argue with you, so we're gonna get to argue right now. I feel like. So,
how do you feel about school lunch?
Homeschoolers are just fine, Gibbs. Calm your ass.
No, hold on. So, all right. I'm a cost benefit analysis guy as well, and I also agree with you that generally taxation is theft.
Based.
Right? So yeah, I mean, I feel like we both are on agreement on that. Here's my problem with your analysis, right? And when it comes to the homeschool thing, and they're talking about taking tests, Forbes put out a study. I don't know. I feel like we can trust Forbes when it comes to economics. That said, people that graduate college after their, after being homeschooled for their first K through 12, on average, make $24,000 less than their counterparts that attended public or private schools. All right. So in that case, would you say that the cost benefit analysis is economically viable? Now these people are less contributing members to society than they are to an average person that went to public or private school. Would you agree in that case that private school that homeschooling is not up to snuff?
Link me the article. I'll take a look at it.
I bet I'll do that here. So here's the next question. Then let's just say 20. Let's just. I feel like we'll stick with that number, 24,000 right here, income. If
So that's pretty significant.
Right,
that's very significant. Yeah.
If the income was sitting here was 24,000 and it was the same, and it showed that the person was school lunch, if by giving them free school lunch allowed them to make 24,000 more after they graduate, would you then say that school lunches are providing a big enough benefit to fund them with your tax dollars?
I'm sure I'll need to take a look at the cost compared to if that's actually true. 26,000
per year? Yeah, I'm almost positive that like Toy would. Like, because whatever we're paying in, you're making out like probably triple.
But, all right. So what is the number then? And I know you like to do that.
All right. Do you know? I don't. No. Hold on. I'm okay with like percentages because that highlights the principle of all of its theft, right? But the question of a cost benefit analysis is going to be like highly case dependent. So if you have those numbers, I'll take a look at them.
Median college income is like 60K or something, so that's a good chunk.
I'm saying if somebody's making like a private school kid making 24,000 less, like I mean a homeschool. I don't even believe that. Honestly.
Yeah, no. Gibbs is literally saying like your income doubles if you get free school lunches. So I mean, if that's the case,
no, I didn't say.
No, he said that hypothetical. He was talking about.
Okay, so that was just a hypothetical.
The first one was the 24,000 homeschool kids after they graduate, and the reason they cited was the social, inability after that. Whatever.
I just don't believe that. I don't believe that's true.
Oh well, we should take a look.
Doubt that.
I'll link it here. Give me a moment. I'll find it for you.
During interviews, they might be more awkward than like other students or other kids.
Maybe, and it could also be like networking and stuff, but it does seem way too large for.
Could be leadership skills.
I can see 2,400.
Wouldn't they be more likely to be in like computer science though?
Whatever number you know, whatever number you want. What's the number that you're going to say cost benefit analysis is whatever? Because you're sitting here talking about percentages. All right, so what's the income number?
15,321. No more, no less. That's exactly the line. There you go.
Is that USD or Canadian dollar?
A USD, yeah, and adjusted for inflation too. So next time you ask me tomorrow, it's going to be 4% higher or whatever.
Inflation. Let's go to Tiberius.
I'm tired of making this the lactoid empowerment hour. Like,
hey.
I love
to spread my propaganda. Keep talking money, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I largely did have a question for you, but the problem is like it's literally been UV8, and it's kind of annoying because I want to fight somebody at this point. So I'm just gonna pass. Somebody please bring up something else.
Wait, hold on. Was it a good question though? You should
It
ask
was-
it anyway.
Okay, you remember how you did the early employment take, where it's like, hey, if what is it? High schoolers could get it in the workforce instead of going to high school,
like Germany does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's for kid friendly slaughterhouses for child employment.
Like-
That makes
like-
sense.
Wait. All right, so
Not
like,
slaughterhouse.
hold up, please. Hold up. All right. So the question was that just to play with this a little bit, if these folks decided they wanted to go back to school at a point, whether it be high school or even college, would you be willing to allow state funds for that if they decided to do it at a later point?
No, I don't.
So they
think
work for like. Oh, okay, yeah. So if they worked for like 4 years and then came back and like, no, I need to finish high school, I need to go to college.
Ideally it would be like, ideally the education would like perhaps be up to high school. I don't know exactly which grade, but like up to around there, and then like afterwards join the workforce or attend a private school.
So this is just so crazy to me because the future of work in these states is supposed to be that like 1 in 2 jobs will need a college degree. Like the idea that up to high school is just ideal is like it's so falling short, man.
That's something. Wait, that was the biggest thing I agree with Lactoid on, and I feel like everyone here kind of does. Now, I don't know about the majority, like, because education system is gonna fit. You have to try to fit the most people, but every one of us absolutely knows someone who like didn't benefit from their high school education. Like who like they might have got their high school diploma, but typically if they would have started working at 16, they probably would be in the in a similar, if not better place than they are now, just because they have 2 more years work experience. Those people exist. We're not gonna act like they don't. Like the people.
Well, it depends on how you're analyzing. If you talk like again, I think there are other things outside of economics to consider, but that's just like my opinion.
No, but I'm just saying. I'm saying anything you consider. I'm saying that there's people who like they started working on cars at 14, and if
They're doing the same thing at 30.
Yeah, that's all that we're gonna do.
Roofers.
Like they're learning about like they didn't need their education to do that.
Well, I'm cool with it. Like the big thing is that we have got to make sure that those people are able to have successful enough lives to when they have to retire around 63 because they trash their bodies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not cool with it, but I'm just saying that those people exist. People are trying to act like Toy says something crazy.
I know
some kids that are.
I know so many people like that. They grew up as farmers' kids, are farmers, to this day. People who grew up, in the auto shop and that, they're still working on cars to this day. Might be a different auto shop, but it's still in the auto shop, right? It's just there's levels too where like I actually have a lot of love and respect for these people because they bust their fucking ass and they do good work. But it's also I've seen what it does to the human body. It's these people have to retire in their early 60s because they can't keep up anymore. And like they're not paid enough right now to do that shit.
Like that's a good idea. Like, does people need high school? I also just feel like it's beneficial because what if they do change their mind? They're working and they're like, oh, actually, I don't want to.
That's my question for Lactoid earlier. Like,
and then like they won't have an option now because they didn't finish their diploma or just anything like that, and now they're stuck in like this situation.
No, you could go buy education afterwards.
I think most state colleges don't actually care about high school as much as you think they do.
No, but most jobs actually, well, from what I've seen, require you to have at least a high school education. So this idea that you should just drop out and not do high school, I don't think it's a great idea.
Lactoid, did you say drop out of like high school should be optional or like after high school? Like post
high school, I think high school should be optional. I do think though that like one of the requirements should be that in those years during high school, if you're not like doing some kind of education, you should have like there should be some kind of work, like substantive work that you're like involved with that's age appropriate. Ideally, one that involves like some kind of training, like plumbing, electrician, etc.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So instead of having a liberal arts high school, you're in favor of using your high school years as an apprenticeship program.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, I can float that a little bit more than I can float just like letting people out of high school. Like that one was a bit of a stretch,
but I know that we're gonna miss out on some kids. Like, some kids we're gonna fail by making them like making them stay in school longer. Like some percentage.
Oh no, the opposite of that.
No. Wait. You don't disagree with that, Prom?
I absolutely
some kids,
we need them in school forever.
We're not talking about. I'm not talking about majority.
They can work when they're 50.
I'm talking about there's some kids that are into like that aren't benefiting from their high school education. That their diploma means absolutely nothing to their life.
it might benefit at some point in your life. I don't think it's
not
good.
it might. There's some kids that it doesn't. That's what I'm saying.
Sorry, who are these kids you're talking about?
Yeah.
I'm talking about kids that end up going into like physical labor. They work in they work in the local.
You still need a high school diploma.
Yeah.
No, because society demands so. I'm saying that if you reshape society where you could go like, like you're gonna go work on the assembly line and you didn't have to have a high school diploma to do that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You're just wrong then, because what I'm saying is objectively true.
I'll explain.
Some kids don't need high school education.
I will explain.
All kids do.
You're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong. That's
okay. There's not a kid in America
because education is the great equalizer within society. You have to go through a certain number of years of school, right? Which does include high school to have a proper understanding of mathematics, of science, and how our country works to begin with, right? Like to have a civics education, because that person who is doing that physical labor, they should also have an understanding of politics, right?
You're not
like
listening.
Basic governance. No,
I'm 100% listening.
Does
everyone in the United States have an education of politics?
I know that. Holy crap! I know that.
Functioning
Holy crap!
You don't need it.
Hold on. No,
we're not functioning well. That's the whole point, right?
That's something that
there's millionaires who can't read.
Hold on, bam.
And that's bad.
That shit up because hold on, everyone, shut up because I'm gonna handle this. No, because bam, you're bullshitting me here. This to say that like, well, not everyone is politics. Yeah, great, thank you, great observation, right? But that doesn't mean that they don't deserve the knowledge from them to decide whether to engage with that or not. Like understanding the basics of our role, like having even just for employers, right? If you're just looking at it from a straight up, like you're going to be a drone in society, it benefits employers to know that these people have a basic level of education, which is why we have public school education in the first place, right? That's one of the reasons why it got popularized in the first place, because employers needed a better workers. And to say that, well, you could just like cut out high school and then permanently,
that's not what I'm saying.
Almost
that's what I'm saying. You're not listening.
Cut you out from advancement from there, to say that, well, these people, I guess you're going to leave school at the age of 13, right? You're going to go into the workforce and you're going to be laboring, I guess, your entire life. You can certainly not dream any higher because now you've cut yourself off. It's unlikely for you to get your GED afterwards. No, that's a disaster. We're failing those kids.
I'll say it again.
And we're saying that you can.
I'll say it again. Listen close this time. Some kids, I'm not appealing to majorities. I'm not saying that what this is.
I hear you.
No, just listen, because you don't hear me. I'm not appealing to majorities. I'm not saying I'm not saying that we should have society where kids don't go to high school, but I'm saying that there are people in the United States of America that going to high school did not benefit. Mike Tyson is a boxer. Mike Tyson didn't finish high school. Mike Tyson wouldn't benefit from finishing high school. Mike Tyson benefited from boxing.
Bam, you're not listening to me, and you don't understand understand what you're even
He's
asking.
A functioning adult.
So I'll explain it to you, right? It's the principle of the matter. You're asking, right?
You're talking about principle. That's not I'm talking about principle.
That principle, actually, but that's the entire question. That is the question. That's the heart of the question. No, you're saying that these are.
Tell me what the question is.
All you're saying is that you're saying you're post-rationalizing this, right?
Yes.
I'm not, and I'm So you're saying that like if we look at the life outcomes afterwards,
correct?
Right, this kid afterwards,
that's the question.
He didn't end up using it, but like the principle of getting them education means that we give them the tools, so no matter where they live in life.
So I'm talking about the post-rationalization.
Then what's the point? Then literally, what's the point of bringing this up at all?
Because
this is to say, hold on. I can also say that there are a bunch of kids who've gotten killed, right? Who got massacred. There's some kids in Maine. We'll be talking about that in a second. Who got massacred, and then I can say, for dumbass argument. Oh, then what was the point of teaching them? They might as well, because.
Wait, they didn't.
Shut up. We could have just said those kids would have been killed, right? So why did they even bother going to school, right? They could have like stayed at home, ate chocolate all day, and played video games. They didn't actually use it. What's the point? Obviously, we don't do that. That's not. That's not how we make decision-making processes. So what's the point? What's the point of bringing this up? This is a pointless question.
Because no, it's not a pointless question. You're just not engaging with it. Because you're saying like, oh, you have to post rationalize it. That's exactly right. I'm talking about post rationalization. We learn after the fact.
It's literally then you're
it's not pointless though.
Question.
No, because you said it wasn't correct. That was the only thing.
I'm sorry.
At the end of the day,
because I was because no, that is my fault, Bam.
It is your fault.
I assumed yes, it is my fault because I assumed that you were giving me a useless, baseless, a pointless question, a trash question. I thought there was something worth engaging with, right? And so I gave an answer that's worth. You gave an incorrect answer. But now, on the other hand, I was like, yes, it was stupid of me.
It was
to
stupid
assume that you would say had any value whatsoever. Sorry, I apologize.
I tried to save you so much time by saying you weren't listening the first time. I tried to tell you twice. You just got to listen better. Okay. Open your ears.
Then next time, just say like I'm just spouting words and
I'm not
don't listen to what I have to say.
I said,
right? And then they'll clue me in.
We're just being
not
stupid.
to fucking bother.
You said you got it right the first time. You were being stupid.
I appreciate it.
What about Herschel?
What just happened?
What about Herschel Walker?
The disrespect. Good lord.
Do you think Herschel Walker needed to go to high school? Bam.
No. He could have went straight to the.
But he ran for office. But he ran for like office though.
Yeah, and he was terrible at that. Herschel Walker benefited from playing football. Herschel Walker's athletics. Now, again, that doesn't mean as a society I'm recommending that kids don't have to go to high school.
Yeah, okay.
Every kid should have to go to high school. But we learned after the fact that, like, oh yeah, some kids didn't need that.
Yeah.
That's all I said.
First of all,
all right, Corey, make it quick. Then we got to go to another topic.
Well, just a commentary then. So first of all, when you brought up like, the example that you gave initially was like Mike Tyson. I don't know that putting up Mike Tyson as an example, given his criminal record and his behavior. You don't know the alternate timeline. He maybe has a little bit more education. But you can.
Successful as he is.
Sure, but maybe one less rape victim. Who knows?
Yeah, he's not as successful as he is. That's what we're talking about.
That might be a good trade.
Did Mike Tyson not graduate from high school?
No, he was in jail.
And then lastly, you can
he got bullied, so he left.
Arguably, the same thing can be said about the vast majority of Americans arguably are not benefiting from physical education, and therefore we just like abolish phys ed or
I'm not saying we should,
or opt out of it, where I think there's some utility of like forcing physical education to a certain level.
I'm not arguing I'm not arguing we should opt out of physical education, but there's obviously some kids that went to gym class who it didn't help them as adults. That happened after we learned that. After
what do you mean? It might teach them something. But they might learn something.
Yeah, it might. That's what
let's stop like engaging this. We've acknowledged it's literally a pointless observation. So let's move on. Any which way, this has been a lot of fun so far. Thank you, El Salas, for gifting us up, or actually not gifting us up, subbing themselves. Shout out to you, and Naho for subbing like an hour ago. If you're still here, I don't know. But guys, if you enjoyed this type of content, thank you, Admiral Gibbs, for actually gifting us up to OnlyFacts X. That's really kind of you. Thank you so much. Shout out to Admiral Gibbs for supporting this community. Really much appreciated. But like, guys, if you do like what we do here, if you want to have more nights where like veins are throbbing out of my head here because I'm trying to make sense of what the fuck Bam is saying at the time. If you want more of those, right? If you want me like a few steps closer to my own death, then support the channel, sub to the channel, gift bits or gift subs, or use a hyper chat or super chat if you're on YouTube land, and support this community. If you use a hype chat or super chat and you have something you want to say, we want to ask a question or anything like that, then we will read it out loud on the panel. We really do need your help. So if you're out there and you appreciate what you're doing, you find yourself coming back here on a regular basis, please consider supporting this community. And if you have an Amazon Prime, since Prime Gaming, help us out like was it Naho did. She used her Prime sub earlier. So thank you so much. Okay. Moving on to the next topic. A week ago. Oh, this is the calm talk. This is the calm, easygoing,
the palate cleanser,
happy-go-lucky topic. A week ago, Robert Card committed the worst mass shooting incident in the state of Maine's history. In the wake of this tragedy, both Maine's gun laws and its police response is being scrutinized. Maine utilized so-called yellow flag laws, in which a medical professional must deem someone a threat before courts can consider taking their guns away. Furthermore, a month before the shooting, police in Maine were notified that Card had made quote unquote veiled threats and were initially on the lookout before simply giving up on the case. Was there a failure here? Are Maine's laws to blame for this tragedy? And whether you think this incident was avoidable or not, should Maine's gun laws be strengthened regardless? So, yeah, you guys know the news. There was our regularly scheduled American slaughter that happened in Maine about a week ago. And a whole lot of people lost their lives, and a whole lot of people were hurt. That's which is another thing that we always miss. So like 18 people, I believe, is the count so far who have died, but like 60 people are hurt, and immediately traumatized. And then of course there's the families of those who've died, who have been hurt, who have also been traumatized, and will feel these effects maybe even for generations because that's how trauma works. But that's happened once again here in America. And it was about time. But um, like, should the laws that have been in place, like this yellow gun law, should medical professionals have to sign off on something like this? Should the police have had a stronger response where when there's a quote unquote veiled threat that's been made? Regardless, are the gun laws in Maine and other places, are they lacking? So we'll start with our friend Lacto.
I don't think the laws need to be strengthened, or I don't really think there needs to be more laws on this. I do think there was a failure to enforce the law in this scenario. And not only we're talking about the yellow flag law here, but we're also talking about just generally like the threats, like somebody's a credible threat. I mean, when you have somebody who's repeating over and over again that they're hearing voices, he apparently got in several fights because the voices were calling him a pedophile, and he thought that other people were calling him that, so he was getting in fights with people. He, made threats about shooting people up. I mean, there's clearly enough here where they should not have stopped looking for him. It's not clear why they actually stopped. It seems like an administrative error in the sense they just gave up. So just going forward, don't do that, right? If there's somebody who's dangerous and like shouldn't own a gun or shouldn't be on the streets, given what they're exhibiting, you should go stop them. I think this is not a controversial thing to do.
Thank you. Bam.
I think it actually is more complicated than what Lactoid made it out to be. I think there's very few countries where he wouldn't have been the person that is like reasonably expected to have a gun. He was he's in the military. He's actually a military firearms trainer. So it seems that he's like one of the most qualified people in the country to own guns, supposedly. Um, and he has like a number of like medal of achievement awards. Um, like I said, now he did get checked into a mental health facility a few months earlier for a couple weeks, which obviously should be a flag. But then I guess the question has to become like, I mean, you have to answer the question like, is anyone with any form of mental health issues immediately barred from owning firearms? The answer to that could be yes, but like, I think you're gonna get into a few arguments about people who like of ableism or people who have, maybe had depression or something once in their life, like when they were 13 or they like flagged off forever as their period. Like, there's a lot more specifics to get into there. But yeah, I think it's really unfortunate it happened.
Let's go to Corey.
Yeah, well, obviously, as a Canadian, an outsider, I probably have a different perspective since, I think our culture around guns in Canada is a little bit different than the United States. But yeah, I haven't, I read the articles that were sent, which seemed to be pretty good and thorough, but I haven't done a deep dive on other articles, so I don't know probably as much detail as maybe like Lactoid, who seems to have also read other things. But yeah, it seems like at least based off of what was reported in the articles that I read, it seems like nothing was explicitly done wrong, just like maybe more should have been done where it's like, yeah, there wasn't like a failure of the law, but then it begs the question like, well, maybe the laws aren't good enough. And like, I think maybe red flag laws will be brought up at some point. But from what I can tell, at least from the data that I've seen about red flag laws, they don't seem to be, there doesn't seem to be good data when it comes to mass shootings, as in they largely seem to be effective from what I can tell of like reducing suicides. This is not to say that suicides are good, that we shouldn't reduce suicides. But I think there's a question there of whether actual if red flag laws existed in this instance, would actually prevent a mass shooting. I think the data are unclear. But to answer some of the specific prompts and the questions, are Maine's laws to blame for this tragedy? I mean, I would say again, as a Canadian, arguably yes. And whether you think this incident was avoidable or not, should Maine's gun laws be strengthened regardless? Again, as a Canadian, I think the answer is yes. Where I think the answer, is socialism, where basically going back to the first prompt. Clearly, everyone needs Kevlar vest vouchers. That is the clear answer. Since that seems to be the only realistic solution that probably put on the table. You can't ban guns. You can't talk about reducing any sort of guns. So I think Kevlar vest vouchers are the way to go.
Could you imagine if we like normalize like
What
Kevlar
grade?
vests, and we would have like Kevlar vests like fashion, right? Like you would have like women like
That was a
in
thing
like
in like
fancy Kevlar
2018.
vest dresses. Uh,
John Wick suits.
Kanye made it cool.
yeah.
He did.
I don't know what that's reference to. Bam. Let's go to
Kanye West.
Gibbs.
So the reference to prompt, I'm gonna say right now, based off everything I've read about this, it looks like the laws in Maine were what I would like to call paper tiger laws. They were on paper and they seemed a little strict, but they didn't have any teeth and they weren't enforced, and they failed as laws, right? But that being said, as I've said many times on this panel before, that's the price of doing business in America. And the reason why we have guns is not for these incidents right here. The reason why we have guns is to stop tyranny. And people can say that, sit here and go, oh, we can't fight the U.S. government. Well, we can look at the Israeli-Gaza war going on right now. It's a very lopsided thing, and it looks like Gaza can fight asymmetrical warfare. And we can sit here and we can look at America, and the reason why we have guns is so that we can fight the powers that may be if they get in office, just like Texas did against Mexico, just like many countries have previously. So I would say it's price of doing business, and the laws are actually too strict, even if they were paper tiger laws that weren't enforced.
Thank you so much. All right, Mooncake.
Sorry. After just kind of reading that, I think it's a couple of things. It looks like he did have a history of mental illness. Obviously, he was in the military, which tells me he was well trained. He could have been a potential danger to anyone because they probably get like excess training, whatever they do, right? They learn to work with weapons and all said. I think the police not looking for him continually, because I believe his family were actually asking them to keep looking, is where they went wrong immediately, right? Not even to put out something that says like, "Hey, this guy's on the loose. We don't know where he is, but he's somewhere," right? I also think that at this point, it's like, when does it become enough? Basically, this is like what? How many this year already? I saw a video on Reddit the other day of the one in Texas, right? Where, like the kids got shot and they died. And I'm just like, when do the gun laws change? Like at some point, they really need to. I know people don't want to hear, oh, you can't take away my guns, but this obsession with guns, it's like guns are your god, and it's very odd from the outside looking in. Because when is enough enough? Why do you need 100 guns? Why do you need an AR-15? What do you generally do with these weapons? I just think, they failed those people like they always do.
Guns are your gods. That is quote of the stream already. Love to see it. Let's go to Ty.
Yeah, so this is where I just sent with the right on this one. Look, I believe that the constitutional right to be there does have a point. Now, I don't know how many freedom units giving guns to people or having them allow guns gives them each. Like we can have that in the open, but any right without a responsibility in its use is a mockery to the human condition. We do not have responsible gun ownership in this country. I own a gun, but we have these paper tiger laws, as Gibbs actually adequately put it, but it has no teeth. It like at a certain point, gun owners need to show that you can lose your right if you completely go off your rocker. And like, I'm sorry, but I'm tired of fucking my law enforcement agencies consistently having to do the Bart Simpson meme of going, he was on the list and we knew about him, but we did fucking dick. The Second Amendment is important, but there's a little phrase in there I think you all fucking forgot. A well-regulated militia. And if it doesn't mean dick, what's the point in having the right in the first fucking place?
Yeah, originalist lactoid. We'll get into that soon, I'm sure. Let's go to STL.
So the defense of the yellow flag laws here just seems to be either one, these are somehow going to stop our ability to fight tyranny, which is insane because we live in the country which has the most people incarcerated of any country on earth. We literally incarcerate more people than the post-Stalin Soviet Union did. Like it's whatever. We are like also like running around the world fucking destroying everyone with our military. They have militaries back. They can't fight back. They can't win. Just having a gun doesn't even mean that you win against tyranny. The example cited was Gaza, which has had 1.4 million people displaced and like 7,000 killed. If they had more small arms, they could shoot down the rockets incoming, the missiles incoming. I don't know.
It's secret missiles.
But regardless, I just wanted to say on the red flag laws in particular versus the yellow flag laws, something like 6 in 7 mass shooters had threats to police, a suicide attempt, or some other activity that was covered under a red flag law. It's true that we don't have data on the efficacy of red flag laws for stopping mass shootings. That's mostly because mass shootings are so rare that it's almost impossible to study them. But we do know that red flag laws have had pretty big impacts on reducing suicides, which are a very related thing and go through a similar process. In Connecticut, after their red flag law, suicides went down by 14%. And in Indiana, they went down by about 7%. So if you could even reduce mass shootings by 10%, that's a win. So why not do it? What's the downside? Yeah.
And before we go to our final guest, Stevie, my understanding of the difference between red and yellow flag laws is that like the medical professional sign off, and red flag laws you still have to like report it to police to say that this person is unwell and possibly danger. Then they take you into custody, and and I think they make a recommendation. But then yellow flag laws, they require an extra step of like having a medical professional look you over.
Standard red flag law. Just to hit this because I'm a Hoosier and he just brought this up. Standard red flag law just basically is that a judge, in the same way they would issue a warrant, has to issue a suspension of someone's gun rights.
Okay.
And I think that's base as fuck. I really do.
Gibby.
Did you say Hoosier? You're a Hoosier?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We are literally the only state that does not do like Ohioans or whatever.
You feel normal calling yourself a Hoosier?
Yes, I do. Have you not seen the movie? It's called We Are Hoosiers.
Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana.
So yes, I think this is just like episode like 10,000 of like innocent people being murdered because Americans have been indoctrinated into like worshiping guns. And I think that's all this is. I think my position on this hasn't changed in the last like few years that I've been on these panels. I think the Second Amendment needs to be done away with. I think that we should absolutely ban guns for civilian households. And I think if you disagree, you're probably a dumbass.
You want a civilian?
Right.
Well, yeah, I'm on Doobie's side.
Splitting the field.
I was actually trying to compromise with my Kevlar vest vouchers, but yeah, I'll go with Doobie on this one.
Look, I'm not gonna suspend the Second Amendment, but like, there's definitely needs to be some speed breaks with this shit. Like,
I think it should be suspended. I don't think there's any good reason for people to have these fucking guns in the households. They're effectively toys for the vast majority of people, right?
Dude,
like,
I know so many people that are 40 minutes from a fucking PlayStation. It's just like
we do the rate of like gun deaths we do, the mass shootings at schools, at public events, all because you guys want to hold on to your fucking toys. It's ridiculous.
I feel like we're doing a whole lot of post-rationalization. Like even in like insert super strict gun law country, like they have firearms instructors, and those people are allowed to have guns, like even outside. Like they have signed.
Yeah, hunters and stuff.
I mean,
but
they're already.
I'm saying that like no, like this is a military firearms instructor. Like I think it's weird to say that like we're saying like, oh, it was obvious you should have caught we should have caught him. Like yeah, there were a couple things that you can point to, but this person would be like an example of like in any society the person that you would want that
That's
you
not
would say
true.
it's okay to have a gun.
No,
No.
that's not true. He was a reservist. He would leave in my society. He'd leave his gun at the base when he leaves. There's no
He
reason
has
for him to
mental
take that
illness.
home.
But he's not just a reserve; he's also an instructor.
Yeah, he's an instructor on the base. There's no reason for him to take his guns home.
Okay, so but your position has nothing to do with civilians then, because
It absolutely does. So hold on. So do you think that the military, right? So people in the military should be able to leave their bases, leave their headquarters, and go home with their military equipment, their grenades and shit?
I
Yes.
know in Japan.
Okay,
No, I don't know
I'm
about
not against- I know
grenades.
you do because
No,
you're,
I'm not talking
retarded.
about that. But I know
Well,
even
don't
in
talk about me.
I'll give an example. Like Japan has really strict gun laws, but I think military instructors fill out paperwork that allow them to be able to keep a gun at home.
Just as a point of just as a point, Doobie, if you want to disarm population to that degree, would you allow a disarmed police force as well?
No, I think the police force should have guns.
You don't got me on that at all.
Only when they're on duty. When they're not on duty, they turn their guns on.
Okay,
Let's go Mooncake and
Hey,
Gibbs.
I just wanted to clarify something Bam was saying. Like, I know you kind of mentioned Japan, but for example, here, if you own a gun, which it's really hard to own a gun, right? Usually it's like hunters and stuff like that, or like instructors, right? You have to have your gun and then the ammo on two different sides of your house, and they both have to be in locked safes. So if you were to shoot somebody, you would have to go to your safe, grab your gun, walk to the other side of the house, grab your ammo, right? And then shoot somebody. So that's how the laws would work here. So like to kill someone, it'd probably be like potentially premeditated.
I mean, yeah, this was.
I'm just curious.
I'm saying, like, I think that he would have been. I think he would have been just as eligible in Canada or insert country here. Like, I don't think this is like this shooting in particular. I don't think is uniquely
Like
American.
what I'm just trying to show you is that like that's a very unique gun law. So at least if you're going to shoot someone, right, there's steps in between, right? So you have those moments to make a different decision. That's what I kind of mean. Like in America, you can just like people just have their gun out.
Yeah,
I think that's a big concern.
This guy was on the run though for like a while, and like we're talking like the accumulation. I don't think the few seconds to like go to different safes would have changed.
And well, no, I'm just saying in general. I'm just talking about like just gun laws in general and like that scenario. But like for him, they stopped the search. I think that's a big issue. If he was this like person in the military, I feel like that's someone you'd want to continue a search on, right? Because he knows probably more than the average American.
Yeah.
Let's go to Gibbs.
So I want to address something SDL said here, with the Gazans and not being able to, you know what? You're right. You know why they're not winning with their little rifles? Because they have too strict gun laws. If we had even less gun laws, we could be buying Patriot missile systems and putting up on our ranch. If I could buy a Patriot missile system tomorrow, I would. And that's going to shoot down the rockets if they start shooting at me. I'm just saying, why shouldn't I be able to own that? And secondly, you're sitting here talking about the ammo being on a different side of the house. Well, guess what? If these guys have been carrying guns in the place they started shooting up,
this is a meme.
Yeah,
like,
everybody-
it's 100% not a meme. It's 100% not a meme.
You really have $30 million just sitting around where you can buy a Patriot battery?
Maybe I'll get a few people throwing on it. Don't worry.
There's more mass
God.
shootings in states where there's more guns, which doesn't make any sense if guns stop mass shootings.
Where are the guys with the good guns?
It's a correlation, not a causation.
That's true. We can't really prove causality.
This is a throwback to when you said it was correlation. Okay, so I'm just saying a correlation here. You can't know. It could be that states that have more like criminal proclivity, people buy more guns to defend themselves, and those are also the states that have more mass shootings. You don't know.
So isn't it related?
I get fucked.
Like not a joke. Isn't it related to like
gun fetish?
So I mean, the good guy with a gun thing doesn't matter though. The good guy with a gun thing doesn't matter because once again, even if they did have a gun and they were successful or they weren't successful, that doesn't matter because the point of the guns is to stop the government or make it at least bad enough that they're afraid to implement tyrannic laws. That's that's why.
Can we get back to that in a second, Gib? Let's just hold that. We're gonna get back to the government and the tyranny. But like a little bit serious. Like it seems that the biggest thing we control, like related to like mass shootings we seem to see is like densely populated areas. Like it doesn't seem that, like, at least on average, it doesn't seem that like where gun violence, like mass shootings and gun violence takes place is in like little bitty towns in Mississippi, like where the percentage of guns in that population probably is really freaking high.
There's a sampling bias here though, because you're talking about urban centers which have what 40% of the population just at it, and then suburbs are another 30.
It's not causal,
right? So the problem here is twofold. Number one, we're going to see a sampling bias just because how many fucking people live in cities, but also there's a level where and I've had this take for a long time. Cities destroy like the human psyche to at least some degree. We are not built to be packed in like rats with millions of people on top of each other. Like it fucks with you hard. So yeah, like I've gone down that road. I will fucking defend that state. Hey, you know
Oh
what?
my
Look,
God.
Evansville, Indiana is pretty great, but you whenever you literally get over 4 stories and you're still like in a living district, no, you're in literally 40K utopian hab deluxe. Like fuck that shit. Like it's awful and you know it.
Yeah,
Because
my
you-
hometown probably hasn't had a murder in like 45 years.
So
Like,
we've no. There's actually studies for this kind of thing, right? It's levels of like kinship and dissociation to where you theoretically have a max of about 1,000 people that you can remember. After that, like you're literally just dumping people out. And go ahead, SDL. Just
that's dumb Evo psych. It's literally we came up with a number for how big a human tribe was in like the past, and we're like, that's what the human brain is optimized for. We don't know that shit. Just because that's what it was doesn't mean that's what we're supposed to be, you know?
Look, there's
That's all.
obviously a level like where we can socially evolve, but there's also levels to where like we are physically hard limited, right? I cannot meet in my entire lifetime all 30 million not 30 million, excuse me, 330 million
Think about
Americans,
Canada.
right? Right? Yeah, like Canada, like I might have a chance at it, right? Just because y'all are fucking tiny. But like the reality of the situation here is that at certain points we get levels of disassociation between people, and whenever you get to a point to where literally you will hardly ever meet anyone that you ever seen in your entire life. It's always new people every single day. Like, yeah, that absolutely fucks with you because I've seen how you people in the city treat each other. You're fucking dickheads. Like a real bunch of dickheads.
Not every city.
Out of the South are pretty nice.
Hey, look, Southern hospitality is a fucking cover. I know it because I've seen it. All right.
Doesn't matter.
Well, that is actually true because one of the things, like the South, has a lot more deaths from arguments that lead to gun shootings. That's like that literally shows up in the stats. The North has fewer deaths from arguments. The South has like 2 times more.
But again, this happens in the cities. It's a little
The North is also on average 10 years older too. So be real on that one.
Even
that's a good point.
Even if you adjust for age, I'm pretty sure it would hold. It would be like 1.5 or something.
I think everyone should live closer together, actually, and make life easier.
In one building, just concrete. No, so
there's literally a town in Alaska where every person lives in one building, and it's the
That's
ideal.
not a town. That's not a town.
Except for the mayor. The mayor doesn't live in the town. He lives in like with a tunnel attached to it.
That's ridiculous. I
you
want
can
to
build communities. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I wanted to say a couple things. The first thing is, according to the Constitution, so some little bit of analysis here. Well-regulated at the time of the drafting of the Second Amendment did not mean regulated in the sense of government control. Well-regulated at the time, the language actually meant well-functioning, right? So when you read the entire amendment, right, to have basically a well-functioning militia, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Arms being interpreted at the time to mean whatever the military had, right? Arms, right? It's what the military. And now, military at the time had cannons and they had muskets. Private civilians could own cannons and muskets. Constitutionally, I think Gibbs is completely correct when he wants to own a Patriot missile system on top of his roof.
Amen.
I actually do think that, now, in terms of public policy, I am opposed to people owning Patriot missile systems on top of their roofs. So I would prefer another amendment be added to the Constitution specifying the limitations of the Second Amendment not applying to weapons of mass destruction.
Can someone donate me an M1 battle tank, please? I want an Abrams.
Hold on, this is important.
This is buy an Abrams.
I'm sure you can, right? And so I am in favor of an amendment to that to clarify. But I do think legally Gibbs is correct on that. But again, this specific instance was like this didn't even seem like a failure of ownership. This was a failure of just like there was so many indicating there's so many factors going into this where it's like this guy spent 2 weeks in a mental institution a couple months before this happened. This guy, was arrested for violently assaulting people. This guy, made threats and then went missing, and they just didn't do what they were supposed to do. So in this case, if they did what they were supposed to do, they would have found him, and they wouldn't have had to ban AR-15s to stop this from happening.
Gibbs, you
quickly, just GSU, thank you for gifting for resubbing, and thank you. What was the other person? Svoxen. I've never known how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. But for using your Prime sub, we were one sub away from a hype train, right? So you can gift the sub, or you can sub yourself, or gift bits. or resub, and we can get to a hype train. Consider helping us out, supporting this community. Admiral Gibbs, being a real one, gives us that one more sub. We're in a hype train now. I believe we're at like 43% or somewhere around there. Help us get to level 2 hype train. Support this community so I can give you more of this content. All right, go ahead, TV.
I'm just curious. So I guess first off, like I don't think that seeing with the same people who wrote that like naturalization will be limited to free white persons of good moral character. I don't think those people are the people I'd look to for laws today, right? I don't think they're like a good example. But that aside, just really quickly, Gibbs, do you think that?
Are you sure about
do you
that,
agree
Doobie?
with like red light? Yeah. Do you agree with red light laws or yellow light laws? Or I'm sorry, yellow flag laws?
No, I'm inherently opposed.
Okay, so even if this guy had like manic schizophrenia or some shit, you think he should be able to have a gun?
So I'm gonna use an anecdotal example from my life. Is I was talking to this girl and she had multiple personality disorder, and on the surface, I would sit here and go, no, she probably doesn't, shouldn't own one. But then I started thinking about it. What if the government kicks in her door and starts trying to take her rights away? I'm like, well, she should have every single right to defend herself, just like the next one. What if somebody wants to take
So is
advantage
this
of
a
one of her
meme?
personalities? What? No, it's not
Is
a
this
meme.
real? Is
This
this
is real.
real?
This is real. Why would you? Why should
people with
just
like
because this
paranoid
person is
schizophrenia
mentally?
should be able to own
What?
guns?
So why should they be less of a citizen than anybody else? Are you
It's not
ableist?
about being less of a citizen. It's
It
being
is.
aware that we live in a society where
We live in a society.
their
What are you, the
actions
Joker?
might hurt other people, right? So we want to limit their ability to hurt other people by removing guns.
I mean, you're sitting here willing to do the what ifs on them hurting other people, but you're not willing to sit here and consider the what ifs of the
Hey,
government coming
Doobie.
after.
Guns bad, but cars okay. Is that the take?
Wait,
Hey,
hold
we have
on. How do you even like make a comparison between those two? So
because
guns
they
are
have
effectively
they have
toys,
the
right, for
same
most
level of
people.
mortality. Like
No,
literally, we lose
hold on.
about
This is
40,000
What?
people to guns and cars every
So
year.
guns are effectively toys for most
What do
people.
kids die to most
Cars
in
are
America?
in the modern age are something you need to get around, right? To get to work. Most people like commute like what it's like
You can
50
bike.
miles or some shit. Oh, you can bike 50 miles. Okay, wonderful. But guns are effectively toys, right?
Well, no, like to
So-
extend this, literally, some states have started. It's not some states. Some cities have started basically banning cars because they can get away without using them. In the same way, the question is, what utility does guns have? And in this conversation, the example given is avoiding a tyrannical government and like fighting back with your pea shooter against the
Yeah,
most
but
powerful military in the
I'm
history of
saying
the
that it
planet.
shouldn't be a shooter. You should be able to buy a secret missile if I want to get a
Vietnam made it work.
Patriot system. Yeah, whatever. Like, I mean,
Vietnam was
people-
they were a uniformed army. They were supplied by the Soviet
No,
Union.
they weren't.
Afghanistan.
Some of
Well,
them
they were
were.
not
Fine.
nearly as well equipped. Hold
Can
on.
I?
Can I
The
ask?
Viet Cong, they were not a well equipped army. Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to go with SEL for a
Yeah,
second,
and that's why
please.
they didn't win for like 5, 10, 20 years.
They were over here.
Okay,
And then they did.
We'll go to Ty, Mooncake, and Corey. And just before we do that, thank you, Bam. Thank you, someone else. AZ Vocal Local for subbing. Thank you, damn it, Saxon, for being so kind as to gift the euro, or no, this pound, fuck, to Doobie, and he says Doobie is super based. Ugh. All right. And anyway, we're 87% of a level 1 hype train. Help us get to a level 2 hype train. Subs to the channel, give bits, give subs, or hyper chats, like our friend Saxon just did. Support us, help us get to the next level. We have less than a minute left on the clock. This is how I actually support the channel. So if I don't have your support, then we can't do all this amazing stuff. Doobie, oh man, Doobie's a fucking okay. Now he's super base. Now it makes sense. Now that now this is like a post rationalization. What Bam was saying previously, right? And yes, Doobie indeed is now super base. Now looking backwards, thank you, Doobie, seriously, for the kindness. Gifting 20 subs to the community. Really, 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 really amazingly kind of you. And a lot of good people I can see got those. All right, we're at level 4 hype train, 4% done, 96% left. Can we get to a level 5 hype train? Please support the channel. 4.5 minutes of the clock. Sub channel, give bits, give subs, or use a hype chat. I apologize. Ty, I think was next, right? And then
I appreciate it. So like, let me engage with SDL here a little bit because I don't know if we're gonna like openly agree or disagree on this one, but there's levels to where like I can maybe build the bridge. We're one of the oldest democracies. We have one of the probably the largest political like spectrum that you can find of any of the democracies, probably because we have so many fucking people, right?
The largest spectrum? You think that our Congress has the largest spectrum compared to like the Netherlands?
I'm talking about just the people in general, but yeah, like we have everything from like the far right to the far left in volume, right? We've got a shitload of people with a lot of different opinions.
The European countries regularly have communists in government, and fascists.
Yeah.
We have none of neither. Like,
Thank God.
Well, okay, like sure, like maybe that's a good thing though. Like I don't know, like centrism based.
You were saying they have the longest spectrum. I'm just whatever argument
we
you're
have
trying
a
to get to
spectrum.
American democracy. That's not the right one. Just do another
Okay,
argument.
okay, fine. Like okay, well. My issue is this. Number one, like we have at least a large spectrum. We try not to elect most of the fucking extremist jackasses, but every now and again we try. What I'm really getting at is that we're one of the oldest democracies. We have a huge amount of votership, and yet we're actually still one of the most liberal institutions on the planet. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm sure you don't agree with it as like a more progressive member of the political diaspora, but at least for where I'm at, like the fact that we've been able to attain a level of inertia to where like we're moving, but we're moving at a pace where it doesn't completely blow itself off the rails, to me is actually a good thing, and I do think guns are a part of that. Now I can't like quantify that. I don't know how to even remotely study that, but I do believe that's part of it, and so. Whether it is just the political right or if you're going with, hey, mom lives 40 minutes from the police station. She probably should have the right to have a gun just to defend herself from the fucking like mountain lion up the hill, let alone somebody who might try to rob her because she's fucking 65, right? I think that needs to still be on the table. But more importantly, at least, is that I think that there's levels to where it just needs the brakes, which I've already elaborated on. So. I don't know if that's a bridge for you, but yeah.
No, I guess the thing that I would point to is when you look at the countries which are rated as being the most democratic by like more complicated.
No. Like we are a democratic nation. Obviously, we're a republic. I'm not saying like we embody every point of the diaspora. We don't have STV voting.
No. I'm not even trying to speak to that. I'm trying to say more democratic in the sense of like there are other countries that have, in some sense, stronger, in some sense, weaker speech rights than we do. Like Sweden will have more restrictions on like hate speech and stuff, but also way more protection for whistleblowers and stuff. And so by some attempts to like independently rate freedom of speech, we aren't even the most free country by freedom of speech, even though I think we're one of the best in the world, right? So all I'm trying to say is like there are countries that are freer, that have very few guns per person. There are countries with very long history of democracy, like the UK, that almost fucking ban the things. It doesn't seem like they're at much risk of like the democracy falling apart, at least short of like, I don't know, a fascist coup or something.
I just don't think. I think that it's.
But the more guns, the freer the country. Isn't that right, SDI? I posted a study.
So true. I hate that study. So
I posted a study. It's true.
Just very quickly. Thank you to Saxon for gifting. For using a hype chat. It says, I encourage making it rain with $1 from chat, like $1 donations. I like that. Cover me, and I'm a stripper for you. I absolutely am. I will take off my clothes.
Prime embraces the inner capitalist.
I've done so before on this channel. That's way back.
True.
He had to be a real fan to know that one. Gogo, thank you for the $1, and he say no, because he doesn't want to do that, but okay, thank you for that, much appreciated. And thank you our friend, someone else gave something at some point in time. A Kamikaze for gifting a sub as well. We're at 15% of love for a hype train. Help us get, it's very unlikely, but help us get to a level 5 hype train. Subs to channel, give bits or give subs for a remaining amount of time. And in YouTube land, also Saxon helps us out. Who subs to us on YouTube. When's the last time that happened? I don't know. But thank you so much for being here, Saxon, and supporting this community so I can keep doing all this. Thank you. That's an option on YouTube. You can sub, or no, not sub. I mean membership, whatever the fuck. You know what I mean. All right, moving on. I do. I want to give Mooncake, Corey, and then Bam. Yeah.
Hey.
Oh no. So I was just gonna say, U.S. actually got, I guess, downvoted to a flawed democracy. So I just wanted to comment on that. That's super concerning. Back in, I think 2016, to a flawed. They got downvoted to a flawed democracy. So no longer at a true democracy anymore. That's just kind of interesting. But actually, Gibbs, I had a question. I've been thinking about this entire time.
Sure.
Like, do you also believe that like if people could fly airplanes, like they wouldn't need a license or anything? Or are you cool with like licenses, like for flying airplanes?
So here's my deal on the flying the airplanes, right? The flying the airplane, unless it's to like buy an A-10 Warthog to defend your home, then it doesn't really affect my opinion on the gun rights thing. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because one, it's not a right that's protected in the Constitution, right? And two, Texas also fought its own war for independence, and it was legitimately over the guns. We literally told Mexico, "Go fuck yourself. We're keeping our guns." So when I look at my background, I get where you're coming from, and I get where you're kind of
No,
like your
what
ideas with like the licensing, and you think it's different. But
I'm
to
just
me, in my background,
I'm just curious if you think as like an individual, you should be able to have a right like to anything, like to be able to do whatever you want.
no,
Like
I'm not a
have whatever you
libertarian.
want.
I'm not a libertarian. No.
Okay, that's what I was just curious about from something you said earlier. With the whole guns rights, I just feel like at some point it's become kind of like a fetish, if I'm going to be honest. Nobody needs 5+ guns. Let's be honest. Why is the first option always to shoot somebody? If somebody mugs you, why is the first option to shoot them? I
It's
think
typically
we need
not.
to step away from that because not every situation has to be a deadly situation. And I kind of just feel like at this point, people are looking to use guns. It's not that they need them to protect themselves; they're just looking to use them.
And before anyone responds, Viceroy Xerxes, thank you for the $2 hype chat. Doesn't say anything, but your love has been transmitted. And Worldwide Plonker says, "Real money, fuck them Yankee dollars. They aren't worth anything. Come back to the empire."
He's a Brit.
And gives, he gives £5 to hey, it's worth more than the American dollar. I will take that indeed.
No, it is not. It no longer is.
It no longer is.
No. It got
Play-Doh money,
dethroned.
World Plonker. Get on board with the American dollar. Get on board with the petrodollar.
England for the
then.
51st state. Let's go.
Yeah, we love to see it.
I think the pound is still more than the. I think
Yeah, I
the
think it
euro's
is.
low.
I'll double check. I know the euro
pound
shrunk
is more
under it,
close
and
to
I
it.
thought the pound shrunk under it at least for a little bit.
I think the
Then
pound is more
I
close to it.
Swiss
Because like
franc higher.
everything I said. I don't know.
Yeah, because the pound lost like good God, like 40% of its value after COVID. It was like
Oh no!
stupid.
Oh, if you're talking about
I
after
just looked
COVID,
it up.
I
Yeah,
can
it's
confirm.
a pound
pounds
is
per-
122 right now. USD.
Okay, well, it must have came back up, or I am
Okay.
just
All right, now you
misremembering.
made me embarrass myself. All right, well, anyway, moving on. So let's go.
We're still better
to,
than the euro.
True. Mookie, did you get everything out?
Yeah, I just one last thing. Also, because of the amount of guns in the U.S., they keep on being like funneled into Canada as well, just because of like it's the ease of access,
You're
and that
welcome.
has increased our gun violence. So yeah, thank you for all the gun violence. It's really
Thanks.
awesome.
Hey.
We can really see.
It's only gift. It's a gift that keeps on giving. Let's go to Corey.
Yeah, just I guess a minor correction where I believe it's no longer known as multiple personality disorders. I believe it's been renamed to dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
And just to let's say test your limits, Admiral Gibbs, where I'm definitely not an expert on dissociative identity disorder, where I don't think it's how it's depicted in movies, but let's just say it is. It's Edward Norton in Primal Fear, and like this person that you spoke to, like they have this other personality that's just like sadistic and like expressing murderous tendencies but not doing anything like would you should they be restricted in their gun access?
Yeah. So one, not only did I talk to this person, I dated him because I like toxic people apparently, and two, I mean, no, because maybe the other personalities need protection. Once we start going down this path, now you're just being ableist. Like, what's next? You can say if they have ADHD, they can't have a gun. Oh, if they cried one time in their life, they can't have a gun. Like, outrageous.
Well, I mean, like I said, I was compromising with my Kevlar vest vouchers, but I'm
I-
on
I'm, o-
Doobie's
I'm okay.
side here
I'm
of
okay with the
like,
capital vest thing. I mean, I feel like I'd be okay if here's a socialist program. I'd be okay with if the government issued Kevlar vest and rifles to every
see,
citizen
you are
on
a
their
lefty.
18th birthday.
I'm getting you to
I'd be okay with that.
moisturize and
Sure,
feed children.
moisturize.
Now Kevlar vests.
I don't know.
Corey,
This seems like a battle of the absurdities. Like, all right, we
not
cannot allow it's like, oh, if we allow the government to stop taking some guns or stop people from getting like some guns, they're gonna make it where they're all gonna make all the guns. I'm like, wait. We can throttle this, guys. Come on. Like, there's levels to, come on, Gibbs, you were smarter than this. Like,
I mean,
don't get me
I
wrong.
think you're wrong.
Like,
Oh, okay.
who needs an AR-15?
Like, dude, like, okay,
think-
don't
I
get me
think
wrong.
we
The
should consider
government's
it.
kind
We
of
should
shit.
consider it.
Like, I'm look, government's kind of shit. I get it. Like, there's levels to where, like I'm totally with you. Like it can't administrate where the fuck, yada yada yada. But like seriously, if you can't even trust judges to be like, hey, you're being a fuckwad, like we're taking your guns away until you can actually appear at this court date. Like, where's the rationality at this point? It's just like, all right, cool. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry can jump in the Durango and fucking roll down on the street and fucking shoot everybody there, and there's fuck all to stop them.
Well, I don't trust judges at all. I mean, look at like corrupt governments. You get a corrupt judge in there, they can start issuing like unjust things, like proclamations.
Like,
like I
this
mean,
is
like
utopian at this point. Of course, there's going to be like
who decides when the government's corrupt, right? So like there are plenty of militias in the U.S. right now that run around in the woods, drinking beer and shooting guns. So if one of those militias decided that the government's corrupt enough to go around shooting politicians, like who would you be to argue against them? Like they believe that the government's corrupt, taking their rights away. Guns exist to protect their rights, so why shouldn't they shoot the politician?
So, Doobie, we've actually talked about this before, and this is kind of where the asymmetrical warfare, I think, comes in, right? And so, if they were a militia and they really believed in their cause and they thought that government was corrupt and they wanted to go fight asymmetrical, yeah, then they should by all means be allowed to. Now, on the flip side, after you do that, you got to face the consequences. So, if you go and do something crazy like attack a festival, then guess what? The government's going to come down real hard on you and probably wipe you out. So, you got to know the pros and cons. But the whole point is, if the tyrannical government takes over a large scale, at least the people have the ability to make it bloody enough that they might rethink doing that.
I think there's an episode of Atlanta for everything, but in the final season there was like an episode of Atlanta where like it was kind of making fun of the idea of everybody in Atlanta has a gun, and this guy was like the main character was being chased, and then like by a guy that was shooting, and the guy shot a gun, and then like everybody just randomly pulled a gun. I'm talking like the lady with a baby, the old man, and people were just shooting in random directions. It was hilarious. Long story short, go watch Atlanta.
What a utopia!
Atlanta's great.
It is.
But
wait, that wasn't my point. Well, the point I actually wanted to make was I actually I think that there are some like common sense laws we can probably implement into our society that make more sense. Like we could actually follow through on the laws that are on the books probably a little bit better, which is probably the where we should be leaning. But I think the irresponsible conversation that continues to happen over and over again is the conversation about getting rid of the guns. And I'm not making an argument from the Constitution. I'm not making an argument from like I know my rights. I'm just saying like practically we're past that point. There are more guns in the United States than there are human beings. You physically can't get rid of the guns at this point. So we have to figure out better situations on how to live with them. Because like any form of removal you attempt to do is going to be an utter failure. Like
it would be a generational effort, right? Like eventually you could succeed, but it would take forever and a fuckload of money and effort.
Or like a buyback program.
I don't think
so. Like even with all those, like you're still gonna have a bunch of people who are gonna be hangers on. You're gonna have people who steal it. You're gonna have black marketing, yada yada yada, right?
I mean, unless you're like forcing yourself into people's houses and searching them, you're just
right. So like it's gonna take for fuck off ever to like weed that down, right? Like it might not even be 20 years. It might be like 100. Just
we
because
force
people
our
would
way
hang
to
on.
people's houses to look for the contraband. Like actually,
I mean,
I
if you want to do that,
that's work with that. Like that.
Look, I'm not saying like that is an impossibility. The thing is like if you all want to go with that, like fuck it, I'm 2A then. Like there is levels to where like both sides of this conversation to me are just horrendous. Like having it to where we're just gonna take away the guns whenever I address the things that I did, like just throwing that out. Baby with the bathwater, and if you're on board with that, like we just can't be friends. No. On the other side, like the Gibbs take, where it's just like, hey, you know what? It's the constitutional right. Let's fucking go. Like, nah. Like, there's fuck off. Like, you both are. Oh my god. Like, no. Like, please stop being children.
And it's typically people who just don't have any relationship with guns. Like,
right,
and that's the thing. Like, there's. I mean, unfortunately, like I said, you do have people like this who have these like shooter situations that should be one of the people we consider to be trained professionals. Like that's literally the job is to teach other people how to handle firearms in a safe and like healthy manner. But like overwhelmingly so, that's not how these situations play out.
Look, agreed, and also just to add on to that real quick though, like it makes so much more sense to me that to have a relationship as a ruralite or because I like you shoot off around here, you hit a couple corn stalks, big deal, right? You are in an urban area where you fire off around in an apartment, right? You hit like a dog, a kid, and a rubber ducky, like that's fucking awful. You don't want to do that. Like the context is different. I respect that, and that's why like people are like, "Oh, Chicago gun control is awful." It's like, do you know where they get those guns? Fucking Indiana. It's a fuck up on our part. They can't do anything about the guns they can get from here.
So I just have a question. So the highest like death rate for children in America are like gun related. So at what point do laws genuinely start to change? Like at what point do we say, you know what, maybe there are too many guns? Like will is that an aspect?
Hopefully never. Hopefully never.
At what point could we give like all of the United States back to the Native Americans? Like, you have 350 million
here's
people
my issue.
in this
Why
country.
can't? Why do we need AR-15s? Like, I'm just honestly asking.
Like,
why would that be?
Please let me answer this.
Are negligible.
Let me answer this for Moon. Like I'm one of these people that's like critical mass. The people you need to flip. There's a shitload of people on the left that want to like neuter gun laws, and like I totally get where they're at. I think they're too far on it. But there's the people in me that are in the middle that are simply just going, hey, look, whoever is too far to the side is the people I'm going to vote against. If you're going to have people running around saying, hey, everyone should have a gun, no questions asked, I'm going to tell those people to fuck off and I'm going to vote against them. And if we have to pull away 2A, then we do. If the other side is simply saying, hey, we're going to get rid of all the guns, we're going to bust into people's houses and take them, fuck off with that too. I'll go vote with the other folks. Whoever just has the more extreme position is the people I'm voting against on this issue.
That's a really stupid way to think about the world, actually.
Yeah. But like I never even said any of that. What I said was, why do you need a certain set of guns? I'm not saying take away all handguns, or if you take away your handguns, but why do you need a specific gun like that? I just don't.
Okay,
I'll answer that. I'll answer that.
Yeah.
Not in this here anyway. I'll do it in like a real world scenario. So I own a ranch. And oftentimes there's a part of the ranch. I gave this for example on another panel. Is I'll go on the ranch and they have what they call snake burrows, and there'll be just tons of rattlesnakes, and you got to go shoot them, and otherwise I'm gonna die. And what am I gonna do that with? I'm not gonna do that with a pistol.
I think you have to shoot them.
Do you know what?
Hold on. You need AR-15s because for snake burrows,
bro. Yeah, bro. Yeah, what do you mean? I mean, you're asking what's the scenario where we're going to need it. Well, there's your scenario. When like 10 rattlesnakes pop out, you start trying to bite you.
10 rattlesnakes.
Bro, we have a thing called a rattlesnake round.
I can give the real.
How do I handle snake bows on my property? It's going to say an AR-15 shoot them.
Not only that, they have the rattlesnake roundup. We have the rattlesnake roundup here in Texas, and over 6 million rattlesnakes are killed. So there's tons of rattlesnks.
On fire.
I can answer this, and I'm sorry, Mooncake. I thought.
Really?
This is a real thing. I'm not making this up.
God damn it. Look, I thought I was answering a question you answered before, but I'll answer this one, right? Why do I need an AR-15 or an AK-47 or something that is of the assault rifle class? It's to kill wild boar. Now, granted, I can get away with not having to. Yes, dude.
Are you being serious?
I'm serious. Like, no, wild boar are an infestation throughout most of the southern states.
Javelinas as well.
And like you can take my fucking. Look, you really need to stop laughing. I'm being dead serious. You can take my 9mm pistol and you can dump the mag into their fucking head and they'll just keep on coming.
You better not shoot them in the head, first of all. Why would you shoot them in the head?
You know what I'm talking about. Like I'm illustrating how fucking like just powerful these beasts are. You have to have some high caliber shit to take them down. And I'm like, that's why you like I would personally say, hey, I need a voucher or something that lets me get a high caliber rifle that can, unload multiple rounds because like I have a reliable reason and a necessary reason to actually use that.
No, I'm saying let's go on my ranch right now. This is a real thing, and y'all can come with me, and I'll have a gun.
No. Hold on. So just so you know, the last time like he brought this up in this panel, right? In lecture, I mean, you might remember it. Where like I was like, hey, let's have the government set up like a cage around his ranch, right? And specifically to keep out the snakes.
It's everywhere, bro. It's all of it. It's all of it.
Like this was a conversation. Let me tell you.
It's a real thing, though. You're laughing, but it's a real problem.
I know.
Wild boar is a real thing. I know about that one.
It's a real thing. What do you mean?
I didn't know you would get upset about me laughing. I just honestly, it's just shocking to hear like that you need an AR-15. For this. Okay, genuinely, I've never heard this before.
Okay. Well, like, I can respect that. I can.
We're not allowed to like kill moose. Like you can't just kill moose.
If one is coming at you, I bet you can.
No, those things are huge. Have you seen moose?
Good luck. They're like big
rounds from an AK-47 into it. It's going down. I promise.
I'm saying, like, I'm just saying, like, if it came down to it, like, you could justify, like, why you would use a gun if somebody killed a moose, like a moose was rushing them, they would use a gun to do so. That's what I'm saying. Like they wouldn't say like, why didn't you use your hands? Why didn't you like talk?
I have a Chinese-made AK-47 with a 100-round drum just for all the wild animals, like
You
on the
could
ranch.
bring
I don't know
like
if I would use
bear
AK.
spray or
I'm
like
just
a
saying,
knife.
Look,
Really?
I know there's some levels of memes, but like okay, like I literally have a lifestyle where like I go to work on a tractor that's the size of my fucking house, right? Like there that is the reality which I get, and that's why I don't completely piss in the shoes of urbanites when they're like, "What's a wild boar? Wait, how do you do that? How do you kill it?
They
Oh,
thinking
oh my
like
god!"
Let me give you another one. Let me give you another
little
one.
piggy. Like no, this mother effer.
It's like, dude, they're like
They can bite through bone like butter.
What about
Like-
coyotes? I think coyotes will literally eat babies as they're
Okay.
born. Like, what do you do about that?
Dingo or
Like,
dingo. Yeah, I got it.
I don't know dingo.
So all this sounds like a good argument for a carve out of like guns for people in extremely rural properties that doesn't apply to like 90% of American people.
And you give them.
I'm not
one-
disagreeing with you
Temporarily,
here,
you can deal
Zog.
with the pest issue and then turn it back in.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like-
or you deal or the very most like you give them one gun that has the caliber that they need, the firepower that they need, and then they have that one gun, and they are responsible of keeping track of that one gun. So if it disappears, they can go to jail for that.
So let me tell you
I'm
something.
just pro letting people.
Let me just add one more thing to Tiberius' point here. Is they used to have a bounty on coyotes. They literally have a bounty here in Texas per head of javelina killed, which is basically a boar, per head that you shoot, and they'll give you like $400 to $600 depending on the size of this to kill it. So because they're taking over golf courses, they're taking over like urban areas. Like this is a problem. And y'all are sitting here laughing, and you're like, oh, whatever. And sometimes you got to shoot these things a lot of times, bro. They're mean animals. And y'all just like, oh, it's not a real issue. And they're taking over cities now.
I'll probably use a rifle for a coyote.
Hunters, I have no problem with people who hunt who have guns, like genuinely. But what I'm saying is that the average person does not need an AR-15.
The average
If you
person
live,
doesn't have one.
Okay, well-
Gibbs, you can't kill a boar with a bow, right?
The
Like, you
average
just
person
use a bow
also
and
isn't
shoot it.
like
example of-
the average
That's
shooter
right.
also isn't using a
it's like for
AR-15.
in a lot of school shootings they do use AR-15, so
No,
that's the only
they
reason
don't.
why I'm saying
It's extremely rare.
in what's it called?
It's overwhelming. You're gonna
the
give
one
an
in Texas.
example of one, but it's
the majority of them are
overwhelmingly rare.
handguns.
The
Majority of
little pistols
ownership
that they're
and,
okay
and
with is
school
what- that's what
shootings and just
overwhelming
mass
majority.
shootings are handguns.
Wait, ownership or like use?
All of the
Oh
above.
yeah, both. Yeah.
Majority of use, ownership, and mass shootings are handguns.
AR-15s are way too expensive. Like most people that just don't own them.
Yeah,
JP,
but
you were trying to say something. JP?
Wait, what?
Yeah, what did you
Were
say?
trying to
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was saying that you can actually kill these animals, these boars, with a bow. You don't need your
Fucking
AK-47
hate
with
you.
the China,
Shut up,
with the
dude.
Chinese
yeah,
100.
you have
gun,
a
like
bow?
100 bore like nailed over the
Just
side.
one shot.
You don't.
I'm a fat
people
answer
do
for the
that.
burger. You think I
Google
can
it.
shoot,
Yeah,
shoot a bow and kill
people
a
kill
boar?
boars with bows. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a talented mofo. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not like
Yeah, I'm not.
If you
I don't know
can,
about
maybe
you, but I'm not
hire
fucking
somebody to come out
Legolas
and do
over
it.
here.
gotta
Okay.
reload.
And they travel in packs. You might get one of them, but what happens when the 3 next ones get you?
Maybe you need traps. Maybe killing them one by one isn't efficient, so you need to trap them.
It's like a
Like people
600-pound animal coming through. What kind of traps are you
Okay,
building?
are you telling me? You, Mr. Wildlife Man, you don't know about boar traps?
I
You
don't
know
believe
that they have like pens that drop down and trap like 20 boar at a time.
we just shoot them. I don't bother with the traps. Bang bang, the problem solved.
Okay, moving away from the 30 wild boars.
Yep.
I think it's worth the
And the
conversation did
moose.
start with red flag laws, which aren't a real concern for any of this, unless like the thing causing you depression and threats to the police is all the wild boars on your property. Like the intersection here is really small.
It's not that small, actually.
It's not small, bro. They're taking over cities.
It's
Alice,
very small.
I don't know
I want
about
to.
cities.
I want to see these cities.
I don't know about
inhabited by
cities.
boars.
I'm
Alice,
saying that, like,
Alice,
I'm saying that, like you got to step outside of whatever like city you live in. There's most of America, like a large, well, not most. There's a large percentage of like Americans that live in like rural conditions that run into things like this all the time.
Still 30% of the
Deer,
population.
boars,
It sounds like they should call animal control,
Right.
right? And let
Can I
them deal
just-
with it.
correct the thing about the school shootings.
Uh-huh.
Just because I found it. It says 10 of the 17 deadliest mass shootings in America saw the gunman use an AR-15 rifle.
Oh, okay, hold on a second. Like different claim here.
And-
We were saying
No,
the
no, I know, I
majority.
know.
Okay. That I just want to make sure we're on the same
It
page
just
there.
says like that they're the most common like
That-
rifle.
So that part makes sense because the AR-15 is really good at killing people, just straight out. Like the issue that we were raising is if you're talking about the volume of people who are shot in mass shootings, it's handguns, right? And like that, if you're trying to save lives, they're not the deadliest because like you're talking about a weapon that is about yay big, and you have a max clip of 17, right? At least in mine is, versus an AR-15, which bullet is that fucking big, shoots almost at twice the goddamn speed, and you have a 30-round clip. Like if you were going to kill people, you would be more effective with that. But if you somehow made all the handguns go away tomorrow, you would save 4 times the amount of people than getting rid of
so
a lot more than 4.
Why not do
fair enough.
A slight ban on
Was it
both,
20 or
if
some
not
shit?
a full out ban? It's like maybe raise the age of when you can purchase one. Raise the age.
Okay.
If you do have a history of mental illness, you definitely can't have one.
Well,
and then work on banning the guns.
Okay, so I actually wanted to see if anybody was gonna bite that bullet. Are you okay with the idea of like anyone who's ever had to take any medication or anything, like they've ever like talked to a therapist?
If you have a history of mental illness, like documented mental illness,
like just it all, like if you
then I have to give up my gun. I'll have to
say.
What
do you mean?
Okay with that?
Wait, say that again, sorry.
Well, I mean, you're Canadian, so you probably would. But I'm saying, like, I think a lot of people would feel uncomfortable with the idea of like, I'm having problems, but I know if I go talk to someone about it, I'm going to lose. Just
because you talk to someone, they can't just like take that away.
I mean, arguably,
if they documented mental health illness, though.
Well,
if someone is schizophrenic, would you want them to have a gun?
Sure, but it's easy to point out the extremes where like, oh yeah, this guy.
What do you mean?
Let me point blank this, please, just real quick. Just I have bipolar disorder. Should I not have a firearm?
No, you shouldn't.
No.
Okay, and this is where y'all can fuck off. It's where I'm not going to support your side at all.
So red flag laws aren't just a blanket.
And if you don't turn it in, you should be put in a cage.
Okay, red flag laws aren't like a blanket. All mentally people with some sort of neurotypicality get taken their guns away, right? It's people who've made threats to police or who have elevated in some way. Like if you're bipolar, but you haven't like caused threats to intimate partners or whatever, you're not going to get your gun taken away.
Thank you, STL.
People have different lines for that.
Let's go to Corey and then Lactoid.
Oh yeah, just a commentary. So even though like again, I'm on Doobie side here in terms of like I would support
though it's high in
like,
cage, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. With all the boars, of course. But so
joke about these boars.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke. I know.
No, I believe. I absolutely believe you. I will plead total ignorance that I have no idea how it is in Texas, and there's a reason why I probably will never visit Texas. No offense. But so as much as I'm for like regulation, at the very least, as a step in the right direction, I do have, let's say, to support Ty, I would have the issue of like, if you have a diagnosable mental illness that you no longer have gun rights, because I think there's the concern of pretty much maybe disincentivizing someone seeking out mental health support, where it's like, if that comes with a negative consequence, then you are pretty much, I would say, incentivizing people not seeking out support or diagnosis, or like, basically, in order to preserve their gun rights, I might as well just not get diagnosed and never seek any sort of professional help.
I have serious issues with fucking hitting people with shit they can't control. Like, there's just levels of blatant unethical where I'm like, hey, look, if I'm going around saying all this mad shit, and it's like, yo, Tiberius is off his rocker, somebody who gets a gun, I'm 100% behind you. It's like, dude, I fucking like do everything from pay my taxes to just try to be the best human being I can be every single day. And you're gonna be like, nah, just because you have this condition which you didn't have any hand in fucking controlling for yourself,
which could put other people at risk.
Fuck you.
I also think you could put yourself at risk.
I don't know, like it just seems extremely selfish. So if you have a
condition, then you know what? Then I'll be selfish as fuck. I'm like, you know what?
Have the weapon.
Oh well, then.
Funny enough, there's an episode of Atlanta about this.
Here we go.
They deal with wild boars. There's actually, I'm posting in the chat right now.
God damn it, Bam.
I'm telling you, he's out in the wheat field. He sees a wild boar, and it gets real. They get into a moment. There's an episode of Atlanta.
I didn't think that Bam was going to be the one having my back the most tonight.
I don't think it's bad to take mental health into account. As we know, and I've said this before, men commit at the highest rates. Also because they have easier access to guns. Usually they buy more guns. So I'm just saying, if there is a potential of mental health issues, it could be combated by them not having the chance to own a gun, right? They might use it one night if they're having a really bad night, if they're manic or something, and then hurt themselves or others. And I think that is something to consider.
Let's go to
So I just wanted to quickly comment. The justification for AR-15s being rattlesnake roundups, moose, and boar killed me more than anything else. And I love it because I like where you're going, but it's that's not the reason why AR-15s are like not a problem. They're not a problem. 3% of all gun homicides in this country are done with rifles. And that includes AK-47s, AR-15s, all like the quote-unquote assault weapons, about 3%. 1% shotguns, right? The rest is either handguns or the type of weapon isn't stated. Now, that's mostly going to be handguns because handguns are concealable. This is why they're going to be used in crime. It's obvious, right? You want to shoot somebody and you want to get away, you can conceal a handgun much better than you can conceal an AR-15, an AK-47, a shotgun, anything like that. So we have a very, 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 very small percentage of overall gun homicides coming from the guns that people are trying to ban, which I think is immediately like an issue. The other thing is, I guess, defense from wildlife. If you are in Texas, I know the boars are bad in Texas. Maybe that is legitimate. I'm not sure about the rattlesnakes or the moose, but there's the AR-15 platform does provide like a lot of other things as well, right? Like there is going to be like the sportsmanship element of going to the range and having fun. There is like that kind of toy, what do be kind of dismissively called a toy. Like with other things that we have fun with that have a cost, like alcohol or marijuana or tobacco or et cetera, right?
Which should also be banned, yeah.
I know you believe that, right? And so maybe you're pretty consistent here. There's a hunting element, right? You can absolutely use AR-15s for hunting, especially, if you go coyote hunting, other small game, like that could be useful. And there is the kind of Second Amendment element, right? So I brought it before, and of course, it remained unrefuted, right? He just said he hated the study, but you know what I'm saying. The really free countries had more gun ownership, right? This is what we know statistically. So we have free countries that have more gun ownership. It makes sense because having an armed population, the point of it was to prevent infringement from some kind of outside force coming in. It makes you have to negotiate with populations instead of just stomping them. And I also want to say there is something a little bit like Kafka-esque and like scary about the government declaring you mentally ill and then coming and taking your shit. Right, there is something scary about that, right? And it absolutely could be misused. Oh, we don't like this political group. They're mentally ill. We're going to come get them. But that is also balanced against, I think, Doobie's very rational fear of actually crazy, or I don't know, maybe that's the wrong word. Actually, like people who are like screaming that they're going to go kill somebody and like they're loading up, right? Clearly, that's like a different situation. So there is kind of a fine line here, but I mean, overall, the kind of gun legislation that's being proposed, other than background checks, that's like the one that seems to like have some like kind of empirical data behind it. It just doesn't seem to be like a good idea. It seems to cut down way more on like the privileges and the rights and just the overall quality of life that Americans enjoy.
I think there was a period we could
3% of gun homicides is rifles.
Hold on. I'm not just talking about rifles. Right?
I'm about to say kitchen knives are actually far more dangerous than rifles in the United States.
That's not true.
It absolutely is.
So never said not true, but I'm not just proposing banning rifles. I'm talking about handguns too, obviously.
But I'm talking about knives.
Knives.
Yeah, hold on.
That's
such a dumb point. I don't even want to get into it. But Gibbs.
Engage, my nigga.
No, hold on, Gibbs. Do you think that if somebody like maybe they flash weapon at somebody or they shot somebody, right? The person didn't die, they went to prison, and they got out. Do you think they should have the right to own a gun after that?
So this is interesting, and this is maybe where I kind of go away from some of my more radical brethren. I guess I feel like I'm pretty radical for this panel. But once you become like a felon, you lose some of the rights to citizenship. Like, so, no, the Second Amendment goes towards full citizens. So in my opinion, no, then you probably don't have the right to that unless you can somehow gain full citizenship about. But we've already established, through case law, that felons seem to not be full
We don't care
citizens.
about case law, right? Like you don't really care about the law as it is. Like I'm asking you, what you would prefer to be the case?
Well, I would prefer to be the case. I mean, I've already made my state. I'll be consistent. I think that we should have,
Yeah.
if you're considered a citizen of the country and you're considered a full citizen or whatever, regardless of what case law is, that you should be able to have whatever the fuck weapon you want.
Do you think that like child molesters, convicted child molesters, when they get out of prison, they should be able to work in public schools or kindergartens?
No, and that has nothing to do with my gun law stance, though.
Wait, hold on, but like, why not? They pay their price, right? Like, why wouldn't you just allow them to have all the rights of American citizens?
So, I mean, well, once again, I feel like we're not harsh enough in child molesters. So I feel like, no. I'm gonna go with no. Fuck those child molesters.
Just no.
Oh my god.
We should just kill them.
So they get
Just no. Get fucked.
They pay the price, right? They come out of jail and they don't have the full rights of American citizens. Somebody who shot somebody with a gun does.
I mean, listen, if you diddle a kid, you should be either like chemically castrated or shot. That's kind of my opinion.
That's so performative. It's just that's a whole different conversation.
So like, yeah, I don't really know where you're going
when it comes to child molesters.
Yeah, so I mean, no, I think it's totally different. I don't think it's an applicable product.
Okay, so just responding briefly to Lactoid, the question that I would always pose is, what examples of an armed civilian populace rising up and winning would you point to? Where has the strategy worked?
America.
ISIS.
This fucking country.
When was the government trying to impose tyranny that we won?
The Revolutionary War against the British.
When
that was the government. That was the government.
With like a modern military, could you point to something?
Okay. ISIS. So now that I provided an answer, we want to
literally ISIS.
Move the goalpost to a different. Oh, sure, it's fine. No, we can move the goalpost. That's okay. So Afghanistan,
the goalpost of
Vietnam,
being like
Vietnam.
When rifles were able to fire more than one shot at like per half minute. Yes. That's the whole point, is that the modern military is like insanely more powerful. This is something that even as early
like people are cannons. That's an artillery piece.
Vietnam, Afghanistan.
I mean, that's
so you know some other revolutionaries, okay? Marx and Engels. Engels actually wrote extensively on this. How like by the time of like 1890, he was like, yeah, we can't win a revolution in a Western world anymore. You can't do barricades. They just dynamite it. The shots fire like 10 times as far. They're 10 times as accurate, 4 times as fast. Like he's like, yeah, you can't do a revolution in the old way anymore. It's fucking dead. There aren't.
And then you had the Russian Revolution.
Yeah, and then they had a Russian
Revolution. The Russian Revolution was soldiers splitting the army. There weren't armed civilians. That's the dumbest thing.
No, I used to have that same position. That's actually not true. It's an insane level of like we underestimate the ability that like human beings with guns have. Like it's a reason why we literally like eventually stepped out of Afghanistan.
It's literally half the wars in Africa right now.
Like at a certain point, like the idea of people with guns, like guerrilla warfare, like that it still works. And especially if you were revolting
Afghanistan because we were losing.
No,
like,
especially
the US left.
But I'm saying that like people can be extremely resilient. Like because I used to think like, oh, we have tanks, we have these things, like it's pointless. It's pointless to do things with guns anymore. But in the sheer amount of people, like if we actually did have to combat the government, first of all, the reality is most of I'd say like 90% of the military are like Republicans also wanting to combat the government. So like the military would all of them would like instantly drop out of the military, and now you're fighting like the CIA and like 12.
Look at minorities.
You haven't met somebody in the military.
You know this stuff. Okay,
these people are in it for school. People join the military for school. It's not because like if they actually thought the government was a dictatorship that they're like 10 toes down. You just don't know people in the military.
Let me jump on piggyback off what Bam just said here. Look at like Black Wall Street when it got burned. If those people had guns, do you think that they would have had their town burned down?
Didn't they have guns?
They didn't have enough.
Guns. I mean, they didn't have enough. Involved, and they're dropping bombs on them from planes.
No, Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street.
Yeah,
they had guns.
People had guns in that town. Yes.
They didn't have enough. Clearly.
The issue was the state police were involved, right?
I mean, look at James Brown in the Civil War. He was over here starting making the white people in the South scared of slave rules. Why? Because they were armed and they were starting fights. And guess what? That was scary to white people before the Civil War. And guess what? He got his point across, and the abolitionists used that as a spark of fire. Well,
he didn't win whatsoever.
Did they not win because the Civil War
marched down?
Well, he got enough people mobilized.
Gibbs's answer: need more guns.
Need more guns.
Yeah,
That's exactly.
but there was that
Look.
there's a massacre. I think it happened in Florida, like a white massacre of black individuals, where they were armed, the black individuals, but then because they knew they were armed, they pulled out like a Gatling gun.
Yeah.
Like a straight up motherfucking Gatling gun. And
Well, if
like,
they'd had a Gatling gun
mowed them
themselves,
down.
you think they would have been able to hit
If
them?
they had, yeah, sure. If they had a Gatling gun themselves, then maybe it would have been things
That's
out.
the whole point
If
of
only, if
difference
only
between,
everybody
like,
had like drones up in the sky that could drop missiles on people, then you'd have a chance.
Yeah.
well, that's unironically
Right.
That's
where
what I want.
that's
As long
literally
as they
where
had
the
chemical
logic that they were
weapons.
presenting earlier is, right? That like if you need to be on par with the military, then you better be allowing people to get some surface-to-air missiles, right? Like that's literally where the logic gets you.
But the military
That's
would
what I
never
said,
do that
yeah, I
to
wanna
like
fight
the military would never do that to the country.
Gibbs, like, come on,
Like,
Gibbs, come on,
just
Gibbs.
out of,
Like,
like,
so
Hey, I agree.
Gibbs, you're
I'm
telling me
saying
you
that, like,
really think that the country would be better off if we allowed people, like schizophrenic people, people with like paranoid schizophrenia, to have like surface-air missiles? You think we'd be better off if that were the case?
You're missing my whole point, and this is my whole
Live
point.
free or die.
It doesn't matter if we're better off because it's
course
the
it
principle of
matters.
having the guns is to stop the government. If we get a couple bad apples, those people shouldn't dictate the policy for the rest of the good apples.
Okay, hold on. So schizos with surface-air missiles started shooting down like commercial like airliners. You'd be like, oh well, hey, that's fine. The government might turn bad someday, so
Okay.
that's what reasonable
Tough titties.
sacrifice.
Tough titties. Price of doing
Oh
business.
my god.
I can't tell if this is a meme.
No,
I'm not, it's not a meme.
This
I'm
man
100%
is dead fucking serious. I spent like 2 hours like diving into this. He's dead fucking serious. Bam, hold on. You said something real quick, and I want to make sure I heard it correctly. Did you say like there was a tactic that the government wouldn't use against its people?
oh yeah, like just like not even like not even out of the goodness of their heart. Like if the U.S. ended up turning on like its citizens, they're not gonna like blow up New York because at the end of the day, they still have to use it after the fact. Like they're not gonna turn the nukes as an option to push back against like the United
Not every
States.
place is New York, though.
Well, so what Bam is
Every place is-
what Bam is saying, and what this is like critically important, is like there's this perception that you need to be on par in firepower with the military force in order to deter them from attacking you. And this just isn't true, right? Asymmetrical warfare, the whole point of that is that you're trying to fight off an enemy who is numerically and through firepower just superior to you. And this is what the Vietnamese successfully did. And the Afghanistan has done 3 times now against the US, Soviet Union, and the British, right? Like consistently, like we do see
in all
like
those
smaller
cases-
and weaker populations with less firepower
But
able
that's what-
able to do one of two things: either fight
Look
off an
at the
attacker
one-
or make it less likely for them to attack in the first place. Because is the American military really going to want to attack their own cities if that's the only way to enforce tyranny?
So
Yeah, like I said,
look at the
in all
one
those
example
cases-
of an asymmetric warfare like this: modern Syria. The government won like handily.
Did they?
There are examples of the government winning. Yeah.
Well, and so my point is just that the examples of the asymmetrical stuff winning is usually foreign invaders coming in for ideological reasons. So
Like-
that's not the same thing as a domestic war. If that ever were to happen, I don't think a civil war is anywhere close to likely to happen in this country. But like,
Yeah, I don't think
if it were to get to that level, then you have what, a 20-year war, and then maybe at the end you win. That's like the Taliban's win strategy. If the American government goes somewhere else, they pull back to where? Like what? You're just going to split the country at that point.
But
Like
the
your
American
victory will be.
psyche is
That's
dramatically the American psyche is dramatically different. Again, like I don't think the United States would have soldiers if they turned on its citizenry. Like
Oh, yeah, we
I
would.
just don't think people. I think people would mostly deter.
Like they would split.
I mean, if you want to look at examples of this, look at the
Yeah, it would
first
be
Red
split
Scare.
political
So
parties.
the Federal Bureau of Investigation, originally the Bureau of Investigation, when it was founded by Hoover, they drew up a list of 400,000 Americans, everyone left, every union organizer, all the quote unquote agitators, and they arrested something like 20,000 of them all in one night.
And that
Did
is a
people rise up?
continue?
Did a single
Shut
person? No, did a single person rise up? We were the most armed country in the world back then too. Did they fight back and win?
Were they armed?
Yeah, were they armed? That's a good
Yes,
question.
yes. Okay, there was literally a major segment of the socialist movement was bomb throwing anarchists. They killed the president. Yes, they were armed, and they still fucking lost. Not all of them were armed.
You know, you
the government
yeah,
gets
you can
armed
point. Yeah,
because
you
they
can
lost.
point. You can point. Yeah, you can point to examples of like one side winning or over the other side, but doesn't actually get to the point, which is that like
Yeah.
there's the question of, is asymmetrical warfare possible? Like, is that create a possibility of prevailing? Absolutely. And the second
Is this
question
supposed
is,
to be a deterrent,
does it
really?
create a deterrence? Right? Like, is there like a tyrannical force going to be more or less likely just economically, right, to devastate areas that they know they're going to meet resistance in, or as opposed to, oh, nobody there has any means to fight back. We don't need to deploy the bombers. We don't need to deploy anything. We're just going to go door to door and drag them out, and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
I mean, and on top of that, y'all keep pointing to scenarios where they lost, right? Okay, cool. All right, let's point at those scenarios. Do those people not have the right to try? Like, you're going to sit here and tell me, oh, well, because they lost, it's not a valid example. At least they went down swinging. Gee,
So-
I mean, like,
Look at every revolution in like post-Soviet countries and in Europe after like 1950. They were all led by massive demonstrations of people protesting for democracy. Like they didn't have to be armed. There were millions and they won because that level of public pressure can topple governments.
I promise you, they didn't.
The Rose Revolution. Look it up.
Look, I'll split hairs here. Like, there's levels to where like we obviously can get like popular uprisings that like throw out a government, but more often than not, those have to be at least open to like a democratic process. Like the fall of the Eastern Bloc was literally a tide. When it comes down to it, I think there's two sides. Number one, Lactoid's deterrence is, I think, at least in some practical part, I think all of us have to admit the problem is that it has a blowback effect too. So we can say, hey, look, if have a gun, then the police are wanting to less fuck with me. But that also makes the police have AR-15s themselves, right? There's an escalatory nature of this. The second part, though, is it an insurance policy against a tyrannical government? I think it is, but we have to be very clear about what that conversation is. It's that if J6 had firearms, like what would be the outcome? Like, does the military roll in fucking Bradleys to have to take it down?
And honestly, yeah, they couldn't if January 6th, like if they were like if all of those people were armed, like you can say like, oh, there's nothing you could do about it. Like individual people can't do anything. If they were armed and like they were actually like a kill squad, like the little like
you think the National Guard shows up and just
couldn't have stopped them? Like
you think couldn't have stopped them?
Not once they were not once they had reached the building. If they were like if
they could have probably
that instant.
This is weird. I'm sorry. This is like a weird like parallel universe, like judging. Like I don't know. This is the point going down here. Like, well, yeah, if the National Guard had been entrenched and had tanks ready or whatever, right? Like could unleash their full might, and then an armed populace had come for them, would they have won? Oh, I don't know. Like I don't know. What
can I put that back in perspective? Like what I'm basically what I'm basically asking here is that if I'm asking Bam if basically J6 had shown up with like fully loaded, right? Yeah. Like most of them are armed, that kind of thing. You think once they had been entrenched, like there had been no stopping them? Like
like if there was like we're getting Pence, like I'm not like I said. Now you eventually would have started arresting people, but if they had a mission to get to someone, they could have got to them.
Isn't this an argument against like civilian gun ownership?
No,
a bunch of fucking crazies like Abe's could decide that the government's corrupt and go murder people.
I mean, they could. Like they have
which is why they want them to have guns.
I want to pose this in the reverse way. I constantly hear from libertarians that they want to delete alleged like PDF files, okay? Like a certain Jeffrey Epstein, and I hear about it all the fucking time. Literally every day on Twitter I hear it, gets thousands of likes. None of them ever do it. Nobody ever steps up and does this. So what's going on? It sounds like a whole lot of this is just people like coming up with a backwards justification for like the gun they like to have. Like this all just sounds like LARP. Every fucking time.
It's not LARP. Texas already fought a war before independence.
To shoot a bunch of anarchists like that. That's all it is. It's just like a weird like fetish.
But have you heard about the Boers though? Forget about Jeffrey Epstein.
Watch the video. Shut up. You change your mind.
No, it's not a LARP. It's not a LARP. And there's some like there's no, it's not a LARP. We've already Texas fought its own war over this. Like we literally fought a war over it.
Y'all will never let us forget.
Amen. And we should
uniformed military.
What uniform military? We didn't have no uniform military down here when that happened. What do you mean?
I did not know that Six Flags was based off of like the six countries that Texas was.
Yes, it is.
Oh, cool.
That's why they have all the flags up at their place, even though people like got mad about it.
Well, yeah, maybe to I don't know, attempt to refocus. A question for you, Lactoid. Where I know that you posted that study in the Discord about, and I think you posted before.
It was a half meme, just so you know. But go ahead.
Yeah, but let's just say I'll attempt to be good faith. Let's say I grant it all. Well, there was an association, a legitimate association between liberty, and whatever number of guns or gun ownership. But, as you like to bring up, it's a cost benefit analysis. So like then what is the rate of, let's say, per capita gun deaths in those countries? And like what is acceptable for you? So like
Yeah.
so like in the United States, I think there's around, 40 to 50,000 gun deaths per year, but I think most of them are suicides. But let's say all of that's converted to, I think there's about, on average about 500 mass shootings per year in the United States. Let's just say of those, 40, 50,000, they're all now from mass shootings. Is that high enough for you now? Or let's say you double it. Now it's like 80,000. Would that be enough for you to change your mind?
And 80,000 in a country of 300 and over 320 million? Probably not.
What if
when we're talking
We
about
already had this argument last time.
well, I know we did, and the conclusion we came to is like on one hand we have the sort of the freedom deterrence factor, the sporting factor, the hunting factor, all those other benefits that are provided by firearms, and then on the other hand we have people misusing them, right? And so I run through the calculus in my head that I do with alcohol as well, right? So many people are killed by drunk driving. Do I want to ban alcohol? No, right? There's so much. There's a level of utility granted, and I think freedom value in being able to own that substance that is that outweighs the detractions. And for me, it's the same as the case with firearms. You could give me numbers that could, like, if we're losing a quarter of the population to gun violence every year, like we start hitting numbers where, like we have to do something, sure. But like we're nowhere near where we're nowhere near the numbers right now that I'm concerned about.
Sure. I understand, you like to work in percentages, and like I can grant you even like 80,000 would be like a small minority in a country of whatever 330, 340 million. But let's just say it's with 10% of all homicides, or I'll even use a concrete number, 1 million deaths per year. Is that high enough for you?
1 million? Are there even 1 million homicides per year?
No, almost certainly not. But
I
looked
at the child number because Mooncake had brought up like, oh yeah, the child deaths line. I was like, what is the exact number? It's somewhere around 2,500. Which
in 2022,
you should want no dead
no,
kids.
I'm pushing.
Yeah. No, this is fair, right? In 2022, there was 21,156 reported cases of murder or non-negligent manslaughter in the United States. So we're talking about 21,000 compared to 1 million. So we're talking about just with guns of what? My math is not the best, but like almost 100 timesing it, roughly.
Yeah,
right?
100,000 times. Like, this is like, whatever, a ridiculous increase. I'm just trying to see like roughly. I don't.
Yeah. We hit 1 million deaths per year in like from guns. And you show me like a gun control policy that works, I would be on board. But it would need to be narrowly. It would be narrow. It'd have to need to be narrowly tailored to like address the issue, while also trying to maintain as many gun rights as we can.
And as an aside, do you support my Kevlar vest voucher?
I don't support your Kevlar vest voucher.
Would you be in favor of running, an experiment? Let's say a small town.
Sure.
We roll it out and we show that it reduces fatalities.
What grade?
We'd have to see because those vests are not comfortable. So I mean, people aren't going to wear them every day, right?
But I'm not forcing it. It's a voucher. Like,
sure, yeah. So we can run a study. We could run a study. I've actually thought about like opening up like an urban streetwear like company that uses Kevlar like infused in like fashion clothing. I think that'd be a cool business idea. Kind of like Well, I'm sure it's already happened, but like I don't see it very much. Like I think it'd be cool to really get that going.
You want to go to business with it? Let's do it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I got the money.
Love to see it. Right, your symbol could be a wild boar.
Unironically, that'd be pretty cool, like a fierce boar or whatever. Yeah.
Holding a gun or something. Yeah.
All right, so we'll end things here. I'll let you guys go. This has been amazing. Guys, thank you for support so far. It's been really kind of the people who have helped out. But yeah, so we will continue on for open walk-on panel. We'll see if people want to join in. If not, then we'll end it here. But again, thank you for the people who supported. Thank you, Doobie, for the kind subs. It's really, really amazing of you. If you want to support this community, sub to the channel, gift bits or gift subs, or use a hype chat or a super chat if you're on YouTube land. To support us that way allows me to do all this, gather all these people, have all this fun. So consider doing that, supporting this community. If you find yourself coming back more than once, If you like what we're up to, then consider helping us out. All right, let's give an outro to everyone. I will start with our friend Lactoid. The best part of this panel for me was my man Lactoid's unrestrained laughter.
I was dying more than I've ever died before.
That was great. Like Lactoid is usually actually quite composed to see him.
It was Gibbs when he was like very, very like earnestly describing the rattlesnake roundup that he needed the AR-15s for. That is it killed me. I couldn't.
Thanks for being here, Fred.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and speak and share my thoughts. Thank you all for debating with me. Very fun time. You could find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, let's go to my man Bam. Like this was established on our last All Black Everything panel. Bam is actually one of the coolest people you ever meet. Really awesome person, right? Garbage takes, just like one after another comes out this man mouth, and we don't understand the contrast. It doesn't make sense. But still, one of the most amazing people I have in my life. So shout out to you, Bam.
He's also bad at rock, paper, scissors. Sorry, go ahead.
That's true.
I haven't forgot that. Every time I see you in my corner, I think about it. I don't say it out loud because I'm trying to like grow as a person, but you shouldn't have brought that up. I haven't gotten over that, and I never will. I never will. No, yeah, I super enjoyed this. Like I said, even on the Monday with you fine people, I gave the absolute correct positions on everything. You people just haven't caught up yet. Give it time. They always come around. It is a lifestyle, but yeah, no, thanks for having me, and thanks for what you do, Prime.
Shout out, Bam. And let's go to our friend Corey. Corey, thank you for coming through and being amazingly kind.
Yeah, as always, super grateful to be here, and pretty much what Bam said. Thank you for holding these panels and inviting me on. I always super appreciate being here. And yeah, as usual, I gave the incorrect takes on everything, in contrast to Bam. But regardless, I enjoyed giving my incorrect takes. And you can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv Corey Campbell 84, and Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, it's Corey Campbell, and Doobie, SDL, always a pleasure, and pleased to meet you, Mooncake, and Gibbs, Bam, and Lactoid, always a pleasure, and love you, Brian.
Thank you. Admiral Gibbs, thank you as well for coming through and being like your color commentary is amazing. But beyond that, we do appreciate again that you have differing points and nothing will stop you from sharing them as we're finding out.
Hey, I appreciate you always having me on. I know that it's just painful for you every time we get on the gun subjects. I'm on here. I know that you're just like cringing in your soul. But yeah, as for closings, I just want to go on record saying last year in Blunder, Texas, and San Francisco County, they killed 2.5 tons of rattlesnakes at the last rattlesnake roundup. So that's a lot of fucking rattlesnakes. If y'all thought I was joking, but anyway, I digress. You can find me Admiral Gibbs on everything. We get wild. I'm looking forward to more of these in the future, hopefully. And I also wanted to say, the very first time Prime had me on, he hit a level 4 Sigma Kappa whatever hype train. I didn't even know that was a thing. And today he reached level 4. I'm just saying, it smells like money when I'm here to Prime.
I hear it. Thank you so much. And I never cringe at you when you're coming through. No, I am elated with the content that's about to happen. So shout out to you, friend. Mooncake, thank you for being here. Mooncake, look, I told Mooncake privately what would happen if she came on Reverie. All right, I had a discussion about it, and Lactoid's name came up. Because I knew we would end up here, and so now this is your first exposure to a libertarian.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Honestly, I would like to talk to Lactoid and Gibbs more, especially about taxes, like tax stuff, because that's where I got caught off guard, and I'm honestly very curious.
Slavery.
I don't know about slavery.
It'll come up. It'll come up.
Oh, I can draw the connection. It's all connected.
Oh God, here we go.
He can.
So yeah, I would definitely like to do that. And thank you for having me on. It's just fun. Honestly, I just play, like, if you want to check out my channel, video games, League of Legends. I'm not very good at it, but I still play it. Minecraft and Sims. That's Mooncake XO. And then I'll be on the panels. So.
Hey, and Mooncake, if you do get a chance to talk to my friend Lactoid, who's a great person to speak with, you should ask him about his opinions on the government stepping in to stop discrimination. Like, just ask him where he stands on those things.
Oh, this is gonna be
and ask
definitely
him
interesting.
on his.
I have very
position
reasonable takes.
on his position with sexual activity with animals and dogs.
Very reasonable takes, I promise.
There's actually a conversation there. Right? That's all I'm gonna say. There's a conversation to be had. We eat them. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
that's all I'm gonna say.
There's so much
We
to
eat 'em, you might
mind.
as well
I
be-
don't do it. I don't do it. Just want to make that clear.
I'm
Allegedly.
just saying
You
that
don't
like
eat
there's
animals?
a lot to like. You've only scratched the surface here. Like this
Okay.
iceberg goes deep. So let's go.
But yeah, it was nice meeting all of you, and it was fun arguing. I like being
Let's go to our
different.
friend Ty. Ty, thank you for coming on. You were like super active in all this. I was really happy to hear your opinions.
Boy, Ty was on it.
All right, guys, look, I appreciate it. Honestly, I had to fucking bite my tongue a little bit there because I wanted to go harder on that first topic, and I just was like, there's too many fucking people in here. But anyway, my name is Tiberius D. I'm a moderate Republican. I actually am very glad that Prime gave me some topics where I can actually punch right because, while there's a little bit too much of that, I'm giving some people some wrong ideas here. The reality is that like I have to keep my side in check sometimes, and I have to call out bullshit even whenever my own team says it. Guns without any kind of like restriction at all is just fucking asinine. And like, look, on principle, I like school choice and school vouchers. I just think it helps Democrats far more than helps Republicans, and that's not in my interest to do. So if you think any of those takes are kind of cool or based, or you want some more questions on it, feel free to reach out. Tiberius D on pretty much every form of social media out there.
Okay, thank you so much. Sock Done Left, aka Aiden. Correct, right, Aiden?
Yeah. I'm Aiden. You can catch my streams at sockdoneleft.org/live. I stream politics. Yeah, thanks for coming on. So glad to live in a society where we do a lot of base theft. We should do even more base theft. The iceberg on that one goes deep, and you'll hear more about it if you come to my streams. Thanks for the panel, Pat.
Absolutely. And any time we leave a lactoid filled with like impotent libertarian rage, it's a good panel. Last but not least, friend, we have Doobie. Again, shout out Doobie for being so kind to support the channel, but also like we got to have you for a whole panel, right? You were here and you participated, and it was I could hear your voice. You're a little gainy, but it's fine. I could hear your voice, and it filled me with joy. That's my happy place when I have my friend Doobie here, saying off the wall things. So thank you, friend, for sharing time with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna go to our open walk on panel. We'll see if people want to join in. Or you staying at home can be a part of it. So we'll stick around for a little bit and see if you guys want to join in and have a conversation. Thanks all for being here. Any of you can join in for the open panel, but if not, that's okay. Thanks for your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your passion for my community. I know they appreciate it as much as I do. Have a good one. Bye.
Always a pleasure.
Always fun.
Hey, quick question. How y'all feel about urine generally?
Love it. More urine, more peeing.
Let's
Wait,
clean it up
pee?
and drink it.
Do
Yeah.
this to me.
Are you talking about as a fetish?
Like
or
literally,
like,
I literally hit the outro button on my fucking stream, and the last thing I hear is, "What do y'all think about urine?" Fuck you, Bam. Why do you do this?
I'm just saying. We're backstage. You know, nobody's judging.
At least let us hit the fucking in stream button
Wait,
first, you
what-
jackass.
Wait, and stream. No, but what kind of pee are you talking about, man?
You know, I want you to feel that out for yourself.
I am pro my body excreting it to keep me functioning.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Well,
I wish I
let's
didn't
bring
have
up the
to.
fetish for it.
Look,
If
more
listen,
pee.
As far as the fetish, would you would you pee on your partner if they asked you?
If they ask me, I mean,
I
I'd
think
be
this should be
open.
one of the categories under red flag laws. I think you saying that means no guns, not 2 years.
I've got multiple. I'm telling you, they're gonna.
I might be open to it.
This is why I'm a social conservative. Hey, look. This is why I'm a social conservative. We have to take the schools back so BDSM goes back in the fucking closet. You all need therapy, all right? Y'all need Jesus and y'all need therapy. Y'all need to fucking. You need to fucking stop.
There is no BD or SM in there.
Open up your horizons, Papa.
Y'all, white people be doing crack. I peed on somebody. I feel like white people. Y'all go there. If I've done it, y'all have got to.
I haven't done it, but if my partner asked me to whatever urinate on them, I'd have the conversation with them.
And you do it in the shower because you got class.
Right. Bam. What was that like? What was that like?
I didn't feel anything. It didn't do anything for me.
Why? What?
Yeah.
But she said she enjoyed it.
Yo,
there you
If they
go.
like it, why are we kink shaming? If they like it, so be it. But you know what?
Maybe shaming is based as fuck.
It's less gross to piss on them than it is.
There's some kinks that should be shamed.
Wasn't urine sterile, actually?
Maybe all the freedom guns bought wasn't worth it.
I need to dispel this myth. Urine produced like by the kidneys and stored in your bladder is sterile, but as it passes,
whoa! It's stored in the balls. You're already wrong. Here you are spitting medical misinformation.
True.
So where you stand on the peak?
But no. Like when it's like excreted through your urethra, okay, it is absolutely not sterile.
Wait, what if your urethra is sterile? Then it would have to all be sterile.
It is.
Yeah. What if you have a RoboCock, Corey?
Wait a minute. Before we go into there's places to go.
Or use copious amounts of rubbing alcohol.
We're missing Aiden. Where you standing on the P?
I said it. I'm pro P, more P, not just for sex reasons, just more P in general. I'm pro P.
All right, Mooncake, where you standing on the P?
I don't know if I have a stance.
You gotta take
who do you main? I want to know that. I want to judge you harshly. Who do you main in league? That's what I need to know.
Warwick.
Who do you main in league?
Warwick.
All right. Yeah, I'm judging that harshly.
Would you pee on them?
I don't know. Exactly.
Probably not.
Okay. Wait. Actually, Mooncake, if you had to,
you know what? Take her guns. That's a red flag.
Let's see. Let's. We'll get down your position, but let's make it a little more.
Our positions. Is this a debate?
So would you, if you had?
No, we're setting up positions, STL.
Being the P-er and the
I actually have a study on this.
Where do you?
I've got a meta study on P.
Why do you have a study on that? First of all, let's talk about that.
What was your question, Ben?
I was saying if you had to pick between being the P-er and PE, because she said she doesn't have a stance.
Oh, like P-er, obviously. That's crazy.
Okay,
yeah,
y'all have a good night.
Catch you later.
I respect it. He had to leave. Well, he on the record.
I'd rather be a P-er.
Me too. I said I don't think I want to be peed on. I was like, I think.
Well, I think it's because I'm a dominant. I'm a dom, right? I'm a dominant person.
You're dom. You got that masculine energy. I see it. Is that a Fanta?
Well, wait. No, if you're the one doing the requesting, aren't you the dom? Like you're getting someone to acquiesce to your demand.
No. You're asking to be a sub is not being a dom. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
So anytime you ask for something, or like, what if you demand something?
I actually did like a full analysis of this. It's like, it's a intersection between like who is the object of
personality.
Yeah, it's an intersection between like who is the object of pleasure and who is the one in control. There's an analysis between those two factors that you can use like to objectively determine who's the dominant and who's the submissive. Mm-hmm. Conservatives tend to be more dominant. They also tend to be taller and stronger and better looking on average. I've studied for
Amen. And we grow better beards.
Just broker.
Yeah, they also tend to be more afraid. They also tend to be lower in analytic thinking style, less cognitive ability.
But higher T, right? So
potential. I think that's probably a little bit mixed. And like, yeah, definitely low empathy as well. But you are right on some other metrics.
Well, okay. Wait, Gibbs, did we get you on the record? You don't
Papa Gibbs got sex stocks in the living room. We got a whole I'm ready. I'm about to piss.
Okay, there you go. I like it. I'm proud of you. I'm glad we talked about this.
We learned about lotion. We learned about piss today. I'm very happy with my life.
What else do you need?
Liquor. That's what
the basic necessities: lotion and urine.
What are you guys' thoughts on what is it like? They sell like weed lotion now or whatever. Like that's kind of weird.
That shit's great. It's great, by the way. I have some. And so you can like rub it on your like, say like I use it a lot for my neck injury. I have a neck injury, right? And so you'll rub it on there, and it like if it's like an indica based one, it'll like heavily like you'll immediately almost feel
really
like a numbing. It's almost like not necessarily like a numbing. This is the way I describe it. It's like this is the pain, and then you're here. So like if I like rub it on there, like I feel like that area of my body is not necessarily like in pain. I don't know. I've been using it for years.
Some relief.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's great, and it's cheap.
I thought it was very expensive.
It's not.
And you like, I'm curious if you experimented with like this.
It's relatively cheap.
This is exclusive to like that particular strain.
I mean, indica. You have a sativa.
What
You have
happens
an
if you
indica.
masturbate with it?
I don't know.
Does it go numb? That's a great question.
No, I mean because marijuana is generally considered to be like an aphrodisiac. So.
Is it?
What?
Yeah.
I don't smoke, so I don't know. But
Yeah,
I feel like I feel like people who smoke can't get it up. I don't know.
Well, that's just weak bitches.
Well, that's because it fucks with their heart, right? Like they messes like I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I think it messes with the blood flow.
There's sativa and indica, and I think they do wildly different things.
I don't think weed consumption is associated with like virility or even fertility. If anything, I think I'm pretty sure it's the opposite based on the data that
I mean, I agree. I can only speak from anecdotal examples. God, where's the music come from?
Well, I think anytime you shut off your frontal lobes, like the lizard brain kind of takes more of a role and is like, hey, this is a good idea.
I was gonna say I can only speak from anecdotal examples, and once again, with this note caveat, I do like toxic women. So every time that we've smoked around them, they've immediately got more. Let's go with hungry for the smashing.
I can see women. I can see it working for women.
Well, yeah, that might just be the fact of like you might be.
I already caveated that.
Lowering their inhibitions and maybe managing some anxiety. Well, managing some anxiety. So yeah, but I understand anecdotal. But let's just say there's probably other factors involved, and I don't know that to make the recommendation for the general public at large that weed's going to probably increase your sex drive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a doctor, so none of what I'm telling you is.
I'm a doctor.
I don't know if well, yeah, you're not a doctor. You're an equivalent to a doctor.
No, I'm technically under U.S. law. I'm a doctor, right? Juris doctor.
Right. So that's why they say like. So I'm also working at a law degree, and they told me you can't say that. Basically, they were saying that it's the equivalent.
You can Wikipedia it. It is a doctorate, so you can look it up.
It's a doctorate, but you're not a doctor.
If you have a doctorate, you're a doctor, right? Isn't that right, Corey?
No.
Well, Dr. Mike is a doctor, yes, technically.
Boom.
I mean, like, if I was a doctor of a political science, that's a doctor. Like, you have your doctor, you're a doctor,
yes,
right?
You're a doctor.
If you have a law degree, you have, like, what is it called? A juris.
What if you
yeah, but you're a juris doctorate.
Yeah, but you're not a doctor. You get the what is it called at the end when you say you're an attorney at law? Your title is the attorney. You don't go walk around saying I'm Dr. Lactoid.
But what if he's also a professor? Because my college had lawyers that were also professors. Are they not doctors?
Even then, I don't remember calling any of them doctor when I was in like law school. I'm going to. Nobody calls them doctor.
That's because I believe it's shunned upon, but I think technically speaking, you can use. I think it might like vary by state. I don't know, but I think there are some.
Anyone with a doctor can definitely call themselves a doctor.
You can technically just as a someone with a PhD in political science. They like
that's
whatever.
A doctor.
Yeah, I'm looking right here. It has the academic standing of a professional doctorate.
I'm not saying that
when I click on that,
equal.
It's got a doctorate degree.
The attorney is a title in of its own, so you'd be an attorney, not a doctor.
Well, so no. Lawyers have a lot of different titles. So we can use attorney, we can use doctor, we can use esquire, right?
You can still use Mister.
Use con artist.
Legalize con artistry is the laws.
Esquire is a good one. You should bring that back.
No, it's esquire is like the term for lawyers, right? So ESQ on the end, that's like for lawyers.
I feel like people don't. It's not as used as often.
It's honestly used a lot among lawyers, but no one else. I've seen a lot of lawyers put esquire. I normally don't because it feels a little bit pretentious.
I'm very happy that we didn't get into any we're splitting the word today. Like we're going to define libertarianism versus neocon today. Corey, I'm looking at you two.
You seen Roman with Denzel Washington, Roman J. Israel Esquire?
Wait, what was that?
Movie. That's a movie, right?
Yeah, with Denzel Washington, Roman J. Israel Esquire.
I haven't seen it, but I heard good things about it.
It's pretty good. It's not one of his best movies, but it's pretty good. He's a lawyer who's basically for the last like 50 years of his life, he's basically a savant. He's really intelligent. He has everything memorized, and he's done things the right way his entire life. But he's done so much pro bono work that he has like no money to show for it, and then he ends up doing something that was like kind of sketch one time. He takes a job that he turns down a job, like the girl's like, you're so smart, you should work for us, and then he like takes on the job, and then he ends up doing one thing like sketch, and it kind of eats away at him, and I'm pretty sure it fixes
So
up.
one of my British chatters just said that Esquire is a rank within the aristocracy here over there in the UK, and it's one below a knight. I think that's kind of interesting.
Isn't that a squire?
Like that he says
Yeah, I
Esquire.
think that's
I don't know.
just
I'm gonna trust the British guy to know his as aristocracy. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he's wrong. But yeah, I thought it was a squire. But he's saying it's not.
Yeah, I think the title's pretty well. It sounds cool, but I would agree with Lactoid that if I find lawyers using it, it seems pretty cringe or pretty pretentious.
Although I will use it for airline tickets, because then they print it on the airline ticket, and then the people serving you are like, oh, how are you doing?
Then it has dual. Yeah, your degree has dual. You get it on your ticket, and then if on the plane, someone is choking, is there a doctor on board? You get to raise your hand and say, "I'm a doctor."
yeah. That usually works out pretty good.
Oh, I had to think about the movie. What he did wrong was he used his privilege. Like basically, the guy had confessed to him, like in attorney-client privilege. But then there was like that he had committed a murder. But then there was like $100,000 reward for like finding that murderer. So he made like an anonymous call into the police and to collect the award money. That he knew who did it, and then the guy ended up figuring out it was him and murdering him.
Ooh. I believe this is I think based on a true story.
Yeah, it's a true story. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It makes you feel bad because it's like, dang, he made one wrong move and like paid the ultimate price for it. Sucks.
Yeah, that just I don't know if I know if it. I mean, pretty much sounds like it ends on tragedy, not a uplifting movie. Not even sure I'd want to watch it. Where it's like, yeah, if this is the documentary of this pro bono career, and then they made one wrong move at the end, and then they got murdered.
Well, there's an end to it. There's some they spin it. It's still worth a watch.
Okay.
And I'm not usually don't spoil stuff, but with it being a true story, it's kind of still interesting. I think it's about the watch, not necessarily the thing.
It's the journey, not the destination. I understand.
Sure, but that sounds cringe to say. That sounds like what I want to say.
I was very surprised that you were on the Boers side of the Boers tonight, Bam. I was very surprised.
I mean, I grew up on a farm,
so you know.
I do know. I'm telling you, it's serious. Like, unironically, I was joking. Well, I wasn't joking. I was joking in chat, but it really is an episode of Atlanta, and I found the clip of it where he gets attacked by this boar, and it is I remember I ain't seen anybody get attacked, but I've seen a boar charge before, and I was like, this is exactly how it happens. Like, these things are serious. Like, these mother effers will lay you out.
Honest to God, it just sounds like southern states need more animal control.
I did not know you still here. That's crazy.
Yeah, I popped back in.
Oh, animal control? I mean,
yeah, I mean, if boars are getting into the suburbs of Atlanta, if that's a real thing. I don't know if you're from Atlanta, but if they're
no, this wasn't in the suburbs. He was out.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's a real thing. So if you look up Alice, Texas, right, they've literally been taken over by javelinas. They're not boars. They're similar, but they're different apparently. And they literally have taken over Alice, Texas. Like, it's a problem. They were giving out thousands of dollars per boar, and these boars travel in packs 50 to 100. So it's not not boars. These javelinas travel in packs 50. So it's a real fucking problem. And people, everybody just get giggling.
All I was saying is, this sounds like a collective problem that demands a collective solution, not individual ARs. This is you need to fund hunts more. You need to fund hunter gangs of probably state animal control agents go out and kill these.
Yeah, but let me ask you this: who do you think knows my land better, in my area better, the random guy from the state, or me and the other people that live in this area?
Yeah,
know your land better, but there's a difference between that and being able to eradicate X% of the population of animals, which usually aren't going to be on your property, right?
People own a lot of property.
I got several thousand acres.
Texas.
I got a lot of land. I'll be going out. I could probably kill.
I'm about to say you're in the country. You always on somebody's property, even when you're not. Yeah. Somebody owns it unless it's you're next to a pipeline. Even you're there's nothing out here. This is just woods or field. Somebody.
Can I ask the boars? I mean, I'm guessing you could eat them, right? And so
yeah, you can eat them. They're good.
Yeah. So if I'm just shouldn't Has anybody thought of like creating a boar meat company, right? And then we just like
you might have heard of it, Boar's Head. Where do you think that started?
oh,
You think I'm
okay.
joking? Yeah, I mean, Boar's Head cheese. Where do you think they started? They literally started from.
Okay, no cheese. Why aren't they selling like? Why can't I go to the store right now?
They sell meat. They sell meat, but the company,
Okay.
the cheese, what they're kind of famous for. But they originally started because boar hunting. That's the thing.
I mean, unironically, if there's not a boar hunting company, that probably suggests there should be more. Like, and it's this much of a problem, then you should be funding the hunters more, something along the like.
There is a boar hunting company though.
So Lactoid, on a real note, I own a clothing company as well. So if you're interested about this Kevlar thing, we should bow outside here. I'm like, this is something I'm serious about. Like, we can make some money.
No way.
Yeah.
Hey, first of all,
the median American.
my idea.
Go ahead.
I need some stakes on this. This is my idea with the Kevlar voucher.
Hey, listen.
No. This is not a Kevlar like voucher vesters. I'm saying like I really think a good piece of clothing. I might be just like spoiling my idea, but I think it's a good one.
Kanye already did it.
So but like
to the other guy I know who owns a clothing company.
You're right. So I'm thinking like
I do high-end exotic leather.
Like the big puff jackets, right? I mean, in my mind, that'd be perfect. Yeah, you put like some Kevlar sheets inside the puffs as they go down your arms and like your front and your back. I mean, that would be bulletproof.
Kevlar is heavy.
Right. So there's grades.
Dual use.
Appeal to a niche.
One, safer from the bullets, and two, maybe good weight loss for the American population.
Well, I don't think it'd be that
heavy. If you really want to
heavy.
go down this route, Kevlar is there are threaded versions of stuff like Kevlar, which just might allow more flexibility.
Mesh weaves, yeah. I mean, even there, I definitely think you're onto something. Whoever started this, Corey, Lactoid, you're definitely onto something. Like, and the reason why Lactoid wouldn't have to worry about me taking that, I do own a clothing company, but it's like an exotic leathers. Like, do you know
Holy shit.
Yeah, so I do high-end exotic leathers and whatnot. I don't know if you know who Don P is. If you do, I'm basically great value Don P. But
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I own a lot of it. Public Gives is successful outside of Twitch. So what? Yeah, so I'm bragging. The reason why I wouldn't be able to steal your idea, Lactoid, is because the initial startup cost for like getting like the mesh weaves, like SDL was saying, or the Kevlar, is going to be like I would have to go in with a business partner or something like that, because there's going to be a lot of equipment that you would need to like make that viable, because it is fucking heavy. And I'm also not talking about putting plates in like. You
couldn't use plates.
Yeah, you would have
plates.
to use like the mesh weaves or other equivalents kind of thing. But yeah, if you want to talk about that, we can talk about that later, because that's not a bad money thing. It's always good to diversify your.
It'll come back around, like, because there was it was probably like 2017, 2018 streetwear was really like people were wearing jackets that like it looked like they're about to go on a mission in Call of Duty. Like it was called like tech wear, I think is what they got into. And it was really intricate, lots of pockets, lots of zippers.
Boy, I'll catch you at 3%.
Well, so my market would be like gang members, right? Because like, look, I mean, they are going to be shot at. I mean, the most, and so like, and they also want to look cool and stylish. So that's like we would make cool and stylish bulletproof outerwear.
Lactoid accidentally increasing gun violence deaths by like 10% by making gangs.
No, we decrease it because they're bulletproof.
Yeah, then they survive and they kill other. Then you get more like gun accidents, right?
They should buy my products then. That's the only way to.
SDL actually makes a good argument. So the big reason why the United States military is so good at wars is we bake a lot of survivability into our weapon systems, right? So our troops are more likely to survive. We invest the money and they learn from their mistakes. So you actually could make a good argument that if these gangsters are surviving, they're going to get better at killing people and better at these gang wars because they're surviving.
But once they get older, they'll like fall out of the gang, right? Because gangs are normally like a younger person.
I'm very curious on what your marketing campaign is going to be like. I can say, are you a gang member?
I'm going to market to everybody. Baby, I'm talking about money. I don't
we would be subtle about it.
Lactoid makes an ad which is like buy our clothing line, get one prepaid phone free.
That's funny. That's not a bad idea.
Ironically,
a pager.
You're gonna market this, absolutely market it to like middle-aged conservatives. I
think that's right.
Yes, you're right. Middle-aged conservatives and rappers. Did you know that 50% of all rappers are killed by homicide?
I thought you were going to say 50 Cent. I was going to say 50
No,
Cent.
about half of rappers in the U.S. are killed by homicide. So, like, that's a whole industry that we could market to, like big, flashy, bulletproof puff jackets.
Oh my god.
But I just know whenever like because I live in the country around a lot of people that go hunting. Like I like especially when it's like a cold season, like in the winter season, they enjoy doing it. Like they're like underground in the little huts in the warmth. But like if they go out, they got like a big puffer on, but it's also got like, oh yeah, if you happen to do get shot, you know, we've got
It's
some Kevlar
bulletproof.
in there. Yeah, it's bulletproof. Like I know that would like sell
Which
like
is
crazy.
ironic because they probably don't have the right grade, and that rifle's probably gonna tear through that Kevlar.
Nah,
just-
they would buy it.
They feel better. Yeah, they just
Middle-aged women
It's all
joggers as
security.
well.
No, unironically, you should be aiming this at the exact same crowd, which is afraid of like touching fentanyl and dying. Okay, that's the right crowd to aim for. People who got too much time and too much money on their hands. And now you can offer like you've got Kevlar gloves, you got Kevlar. Like why I don't know what wine moms wear, but that's the conservative wine mom. That's the demographic.
We can have a puffer vest of Kevlar, right?
They're not mutually exclusive.
Oh, really flashing it out.
Yes, like one of those puffer vests, that'd be perfect. Hats, we could figure out something there, right?
I already specialize in hats.
You can put a freaking like a airbag in it, like whenever it feels danger, like its entire face just explodes.
So on that note, one of the big sellers we have is the snapbacks and the strapbacks. That's one of the big sellers I do, and we'll do here's something cool. Stingray skin has the same tensile strength once it's tanned as some grades of steel.
Is this legal?
Oh
you
yeah,
can,
well,
you can wear Stingray skin.
Yeah. Oh, I just got a great idea. It would be a snapback hat, except like right where the eyes, like the bill will snap down over your face, and there's like 2 transparent holes for your eyes, so you get like a bulletproof face mask at a moment's notice, right? Plop, and then like bulletproof face mask.
You're going like Iron Man.
Okay,
like Iron Man, absolutely, yeah.
I think at this point, I think just go full. Everyone just needs like a full like just being a bulletproof hamster wheel. We're just like.
That's not stylish.
Have you seen the airbags for old people that like when they fall? Have you seen those?
No.
It's kind of
videos.
It kind of looks. It's kind of crazy. Like you give them to elderly people, and if they fall down, I don't know if it catches. They're all balance, and it like explodes into like a big ball, and it just catches them. I'm like, I can see it. Oh, actually, I'll drop it in chat.
Actually, that might be. I could see the utility for that. Actually, like,
SDL, what was your Twitch, by the way? I'm sorry.
It's just Sock Done Left, like my username.
Oh, I bet. I like to add everybody from these panels as long as they didn't, chew me out too much. I'm just kidding.
Well, I didn't chew you out. Now that you're on the left.
No, I think you just didn't know you're secretly a conservative. I think that's what it is.
No.
Could you do a mesh scarf?
Lactoid, I'm really interested in preserving property rights. And one of those property rights that I want to preserve is rightful gun owners not losing their guns to theft, which is why I think that we need to have a mandatory gun safe storage so that whenever you buy a gun and you go on the National Gun Registry, you also have to have a safe registry so that everyone has a safe so the guns don't get stolen. Because 500,000 guns are stolen each year.
Yeah, so I mean, I encourage everybody to get a safe. I think having a gun safe is
we could encourage
smart gun ownership. I do encourage it. I think the actual solution is legalizing traps. Currently in the U.S., you can't.
Lactoid making some Ewok contraptions outside his house.
Yeah, the two tree trunks.
The Claymore Roombas, baby. Claymore Roombas.
Yeah.
Crush someone's skull?
Yeah, like the ATST when it's walking through like into the 2 logs, like smash it. Like that's, and there was a famous case in law school that we're taught about where a guy, like, he barricaded his cabin and then set up a shotgun to shoot at the legs of anybody kicking in the door, and somebody broke in and like got their leg shot, and he had like got in trouble, and he was found liable. He had to pay a bunch of money. He had to sell his property that he was just trying to defend. Truly a sad state of affairs.
But wait a minute. I think didn't that guy like see them though? Didn't that guy?
No. He wasn't even on the property. He had set up the shotgun because he kept having break-ins. So he like basically armored the whole thing, said no trespassing, right? Danger. Somebody like broke through the door, like the locked barricaded door, and then got shot by the shotgun, right? That was basically rigged up to shoot them in the leg. And he had to pay so much money that he lost his property. I think that's a sad state of affairs. I think that if I own my property, I should be able to like build punji pits.
The reason why that's illegal is because you're only supposed to use proportional force, right? And the trap doesn't let you do that.
Fuck that.
Well, there's just that's the law, right? And also,
it's not really the law. It's hold on. So proportional force is not really the law when it comes to like castle doctrine. Someone break into my house. Like I don't have to wait for somebody who's like over there in my house to like pull out a gun for me to use lethal force against them.
Well, so an example would be, say someone's incapacitated or something, right? Like you can't go over and just execute them. Like there are.
Well,
I mean,
now technically, if you shoot them after they're downed, and they're dead, it depends on what the story is you tell the cops.
sure. I mean, I don't want to be like in practice. I'm sure a lot of this is abused. I'm just trying to say that like maybe from like both a moral perspective and maybe like a correct legal perspective, you shouldn't be trying to kill people who don't need to be killed broadly.
Yeah, at the very least,
From a
then
moral perspective, once you're on my property and you're committing crimes, you have morally vacated your right to life.
I think at the very least, then, like the traps could, like this trap, which was like put down so it was aimed at the person's like lower legs when they were walking in, like should probably be designed just to incapacitate, right? Like if you break open a door, boom, like you get hit in the legs. But like I can't even hook up like a flashbang or like maybe a spike to like go through like their feet. Like there's like limits. There's a lot of limitations on what I can do, which is bullshit.
It's kind of crazy that like people want to set those contraptions.
You want some
I
Indiana
remember,
Jones like
I remember a
contraption.
case where a guy knew they were coming. He was like, "Oh yeah, good. Like I've been waiting to test this out." And I think he ended up like he ended up getting fined or having to go to jail over that because
It's
it seemed
bullshit.
like it was like, no, I think that's different. I think he's like, if you're like excited about it, like you're not giving any like, I mean, I guess you could say fair warning is like you're on someone else's property, but like if you have like a desire to like set up death traps of someone's,
The biggest place I can see this being used that I want it to be used is explosive devices for porch pirates, right? Because that is like a major problem, and like I'm not saying anything like a lethal explosion, but I'm saying like
If you're talking about
when people steal Amazon boxes,
yes,
and you got,
yes, like
fireworks
flashbangs. We should be able to put like full flashbangs in them, so you open up like kaboom, like
see,
scares.
I think there's an entirely different approach here. We simply force everyone to get a QR code printed on their forehead, and then that's covered in the Ring camera, and then we simply deduct the cost of the Amazon purchase from their social credit. It's really
that's pretty based. Yeah.
Oh God, bro.
In fact, we can even work in like the DNA can be the barcode, right? We can even go further.
Ooh, that's really good. Chrome can generate QR codes for like each page. Just doing that with someone's DNA, we get everyone scanned at birth. Very based.
Well, according to the sovereign citizen movement, that's kind of what's currently happening, right? That's why they put your name in all caps, because that's your corporate name, not your personhood name.
Look,
and
the
they
sovereign
use that
citizens are like reverse lawyers. They are the dumbest people on earth.
It's a relatively fleshed out conspiracy theory. They believe all lawyers are like part of. Yeah. Well, they believe that like all like the entire judicial system is like a conspiracy made to oppress the American people, and that the only legitimate courts are postal courts based on the Articles of Confederation. And so they can only, like the U.S. judicial system only applies to corporations, and that's why they give you a birth certificate, because that's what they use to control you, because that's your corporation entity. And so whenever they say that's not me, the corporation, that's me, the person, like that's what they're referring to. It's pretty interesting.
The thing is that like the things they said like all worked at a certain point in time. It's just weird they're still applying it. Like the idea that like if whenever you were like on the Oregon Trail, if you found like a random house, that had a dead guy in the back and you lived there 20 years, like nobody could come back later and claim it. Like if you've been living there 20 years. But they use that to like, I've commandeered your apartment. I've been here 7 days. Like this is my place now.
So
like, I don't.
I actually
under some laws, actually, if you said residence.
Yeah, so I actually worked for one of the biggest like property law firms here in Texas, and when I was living in Houston, for like about a year and a half. And so squatters' rights are a major problem, like they're a major issue. So once you go in there, like this is what would happen. Is like the guy would come in, we'd have like a guy, he'd own like 10, 15 houses, right? And he would get a squatter out. So then what would happen is they would either have some like an organized crime thing where they would like somebody would make a key or break in and then make new keys and locks and put people in there, or they would kick the squatter out and the squatter would wait 3 days, then go back in through a window, establish residence, and you couldn't kick them out for another 30 days. And so at some point they have like, oh, well, we've been here 6 months, and then they try to like file for the property. I mean, they didn't never win that case, but like squatters' rights is a major problem, like when it comes to home ownership. And I know everybody hates the greedy landlord, but like I mean, like, I feel like it was kind of complicated because it's like I feel bad for the people that got bamboozled with the organized crime thing, where they'd go in and they were paying rent, and they were paying rent to like some like organized crime guy that like basically set them up and was a squatter. But like on the same side, I feel bad for the landlord who like, hey, I've been setting this up so I can make an income off this, and they're getting fucked by either the squatters or an organized crime thing, and it's a major problem. Like,
Well,
And the solution's
the cases
easy.
I've heard, what?
Well, the squatter's rights. Literally, just you only apply it to people with a written rental agreement. Everyone else.
so what if it's a fake rental agreement? So like the organized crime issue, where they have like a rental agreement and they've been paying for monthly. Like
Right,
that,
right.
state?
Well, yeah. So then you like litigate that and find out if it's faked or not. Like it's got to be. Yeah,
Well,
sure.
well,
Well,
it is
more
fake.
file-
I mean,
yeah,
they
yeah.
don't have that. They don't have the
You
fucking.
just file all residential paperwork with the state, like just have a registry or whatever, and then
Oh,
check
God,
it. And-
not
I mean, that's what you have to. Well, and that's what you have to do with deeds and like home transfers. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
So
that
just do-
much of a jump.
And like this is like sure the state could track you through this, I guess, but so they can with like literally like if you have a credit card, they can see you. I don't know.
Or home buying, right? That has to be in writing as
Yeah.
well. So I feel like there's ways you could do this to like cut back, but that's not the way the laws are written. Like the laws are written like if you break into a house, stay there for enough time, you're considered like you've established residence, and then you can't be kicked out. You have to be evicted, which in some places can't happen for a very long time, especially during
30
COVID. Some people were able like. I know somebody personally who had their parents died and they had their parents' house. They rented it out at the beginning of COVID, and the person didn't pay rent, like just stopped paying rent. Like it was like literally a month before COVID, and then like the rent freeze happened. They immediately stopped paying rent, and they couldn't get him out for years. This was like in New York. They couldn't get him out for years, and then they went back into the property. The person had like destroyed everything. The person had no money. I mean, it's just their entire fucking house was ruined. I mean,
Well,
disgusting.
here's another thing. So in Texas, it's usually 30 to 60 days, and they did have the rent freeze thing. But let me tell you another thing that'll happen is the squatters will get injured on these properties. Then they will sue the landlord who owns the house because they got injured in a house that they said is dilapidated I can't even talk. Or like not up to
Dilapidated,
code.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Or like they'll do other things, and they'll like, or that's condemned, and they'll sit here or they'll tear up the property till it's condemned, and then get injured, and like it's like or bad enough to get condemned. And these are real issues. Like they'll sue over it, and then now the landlord's on the hook. Usually they don't have to pay. Usually their insurance will, but or the people that they pay to manage it. But even then they have to pay higher premiums, and everybody's like, oh, well, we're not sympathetic. It's a greedy landlord. But this is like a real problem that these landlords are having, and they're just getting fucked. Like imagine if I turned my parents' house into an Airbnb and then I had someone just start squatting in it. Like
That's
Yeah.
why. That's
So
why
renters are
kind of like
awful.
I don't know much about squatters' rights in particular, but I do just know that in like rental courts in general, the rate of landlords being represented is something like 95%, and renters is like 2%. So like I don't know. I'm sure there's cases of squatters' rights being abused. My bet is just that overall it's way the other way.
Well, they don't show up. They don't show up.
there's
What they do
really-
is they don't show up. They leave. They come back 3 days later after the thing, and now you have to get a new eviction on them. So they don't give
but
a
I'm saying
shit
that,
about you.
but I'm saying that that's like an extremely weird situation. What generally?
No, it's not. That's the norm. That's a normal thing that
That's not-
happens
that's-
every day.
That's not the norm.
It is the norm.
The norm is most people pay their rent fine and then they move out. Like
Well,
that's the norm. But what we're like it like there are complexities to it. But that's kind of why like as much as I find it annoying whenever I do move through apartments. Like I understand the concept of where like they do credit checks and then they require like 3 times the rent and income. Like you do have to do a little bit of due diligence. Like if you do take one of those random situations where you just trust a guy or he says like, oh, I have enough money to pay the rent, but they don't make anything over that. I understand why you don't want to get in those situations because you can't get effed over. But typically, like there's still not anyone that's gonna like bet against real estate or bet against rental income.
So
because
bad.
the
This
vast
might be
majority is
surprising.
super worth it.
This might be surprising to you. So, like I said, I worked for them for about a year and a half. I would say 63%, somewhere 60% of the cases were what I was talking about, and only about 20% are what you were talking about, and then you had another about 20% that was the like organized crime thing. It's like so
Yeah, if you're
surprisingly.
going to see cases, yeah, like people who are going to like file cases are going to be in weird circumstances. But I'm saying the
Right.
vast majority of people are just tend to pay their rent or don't pay their rent and leave.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just that's not the evidence that I saw. I mean, like usually they weren't didn't have a
most
problem
places
with
aren't
it.
going to get the cases. Like most situations, because
Well, most people that
landlords.
stop paying rent, they'll just leave eventually. They'll just try to like leave and they'll take the hit on their credit.
That's what I'm saying. Like people, like landlords don't even want to like file court cases because they have to pay for that. Like a landlord would much rather figure out. Like landlords don't even. Well, depending on the person, landlords typically don't even really want to evict. Like, because then you have to go through the process of like re-renovating, changing carpet, painting walls. Like
and finding another
right.
tenant who pays.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, they like once they get you in, they typically don't want to have to kick you out. But like depending on the scale of the landlord you're dealing with, like if you're dealing with someone who has owned like 10 plus properties, they'll probably take the hit. They'll say it is what it is. I'd rather have the consistent rent. But if you're dealing with someone who like inherited a parent's house or has like 3 to 4 properties, they'll typically try to work with you like on a month, like hey, I'm behind on rent. If you give them a call, they'll probably say like, oh, okay, let's figure something out. What can you do right now?
Yeah, and if you pay any portion, then you're entitled to a different kind of renter's right. So like if I can't pay the full rent and I pay like half rent, then you also get specialized rights that allow you, at least in Texas, that allow you, they can't just kick you out. You'll give you like a per diem kind of thing or a percentage per day. And so like they'll put that against your total and it'll go against your credit, but they won't be able to force you out. So like there's definitely, it depends. I think that's a state by state basis thing though.
Yeah, I was about to say my state doesn't do that. But
Well,
my place, the place I rent from doesn't even. It's like they go like through like 3 months before they even turn something over to the credit. Like they'll evict you before they even turn it over to credit. They'll just say like, "Hey, just get out. We'll call it even." But like if it's usually after that point whenever they try to turn something over to credit
because they get paid pennies on the dollar for that.
For sure.
I gotta go.
My
gentlemen.
bet is that the root cause of. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just saying, gotta go to bed.
Yeah, Corey, come visit Texas, and we'll take you out and show you a real good time. I promise.
I would visit you in Texas.
Good, yeah,
Totally.
it'll be fun times.
You guys
we'll take you to shoot some snakes.
Until next time.
I ain't on episode.
Actually, good. Good night, Corey. I should probably head off myself. Bye.
Adios.
Running away.
Actually, when you want to argue that taxation is theft, hit me up. We can talk about Mr. Nojik's theory of justice.
You already wait. You already hold on. First of all, you already agree that taxation is theft.
Yeah, but it's based, and so therefore I don't give a shit. So either you want to argue it's unjustified theft, right? That's the argument. If it's based, who gives a shit?
I can't.
Morally justified.
Look, my goal is to at least just get people to agree that it's theft. That's because that's the first step. Most people just reject this concept. And you can say, well, it's base theft all you want, but if I can convince most of the American electorate that it's theft, people have a negative understanding of theft. So
yeah, I agree. Once you convince the American population that that government theft is based and justified, then that'll really help my cause. They'll say, what if we just did a little more?
Yeah, we'll see.
I think Bam's gone too. It's just us, Papa, in this final 2 here.
Well, if you want to debate, let me know, Lactoid. I'm probably going to head off. Have a great evening. Thanks for the convo, y'all.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Y'all have been great. I probably gotta go to bed too.
Well, it was good talking to you, as always.
Yeah, Gibbs, real quick. I heard you are just a barrel of fun. I've heard from multiple sources that have hung out with you in real life recently, and they said that you're actually one of the most fun people to be around, and that makes me want to hang out with you. So if I'm ever swinging through Texas, I'll hit you up.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go have a good time anytime.
Hell yeah,
it'll be good. We'll drink and talk some bullshit.
Hell yeah. All right, catch you later.
Next time. Thanks, bud. All right. I'm gonna go live here. Let me just go back to my camera, live scene.
All right. We have the camera. Oh, perfect. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of Lactoid TV. We had a great debates. First debate, not too many people against us, but did what we could. I thought we made it contentious where it needed to be, and also fleshed out some good ideas. Second, Prime's debate I thought was really good. I thought it was a lot of fun. Everyone on there was just pretty fun talking to. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. If you like content like this, please consider giving me a follow. So all of you who gave me a follow, thank you so much. All of those who gave me bits and subs, really, really appreciate it. And all of you that were active in the chat, thank you so much. You guys are all fantastic. Thank you all for tuning in. what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and raid on out into Prime Kai's because he was kind enough to host us. He's also having what looks like an open panel, some cool people on there. So we'll go ahead and raid on out into him. Yeah. Have a great Monday night.